Call to order the regular session of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, January 16, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Vaticiotis.
Here.
Vice Mayor Eisner.
Here.
Commissioner Kulyas.
Here.
Commissioner Kulianis.
Here. Tonight's invocation will be given by Major Ted Morse of the Salvation Army. If we can all stand and remain standing, you pledge allegiance to the flag.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's bow for prayer. Father, thank you that we live in a country where discussions regarding the betterment of our community can take place in a public forum such as this. This freedom, which was afforded to us by our founding fathers, is not taken for granted. Bless each person on this commission, as upon their shoulders have been laid the mantle of leadership for a time. May they stand firm on their convictions while at the same time listening to the opinions of others. Thank you for our mayor and his leadership in our community. Bless the deliberations and discussions that take place this evening. May they be productive and beneficial to as many of our citizens as possible. Thank you for those tasked with the safety of our residents, law enforcement and fire and rescue, as well as those working behind the scenes on various committees and boards and commissions, all with the same goal, that of keeping the city of Tarpon Springs a beautiful place that it is. For it's in your holy name we make this petition this evening. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello, Spongers. All right, tonight's your evening tonight. I've got a few presentations to make along with the City Commission. I'm going to get started on that. Ms. Fadligas, if I could ask you to come forward, please. I have a proclamation I'm going to read for our outstanding high school in Tarpon Springs, and I'm going to ask Ms. Fadligas to accept that. But before we get started, I'd like to have her introduce the dignitaries that are here from the school system.
Thank you, Mayor Vaticiotis. Joining us this evening, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Eileen Long, our school board member. And also Dr. Kristen Gonzalez, Area 1 Superintendent. Lisa Lennox, Assistant Principal of Curriculum. Michael Mellinger, Assistant Principal. School Resource Officer, Mr. Kevin O'Neill. I keep going? Yeah, okay. I can keep going.
This is going to be a little history lesson as well. I always try and weave the history of Tarpon Springs in with any organization that we do proclamations for. So I'm sure some of you are going to learn some things from this. I'm a Tarpon Springs Sponger alum. I want to make that point. So Tarpon Springs High is very near to me. Whereas the first graduating class of Tarpon Springs High School, consisting of 3 seniors, was in 1906, and whereas the city of Tarpon Springs was incorporated as a municipal corporation, and the document signed in 1887 in the same school building that was located on the northeast corner of Pinellas Avenue and Center Street, and whereas a new schoolhouse was built in the same location in 1911, and whereas Tarpon Springs High School was the first high school on the Pinellas Peninsula that was part of Hillsborough County in those early years, and whereas Pinellas County seceded from Hillsborough County and was established on January 1st, 1912, and whereas the primary school and high school were separated in 1915, and whereas the Tarpon Springs Sponger football team played its first game in 1925. And whereas a new high school was built in 1927, and you are standing in that building today, which is now City Hall. And whereas the high school you attend now was opened in 1962, although it has evolved into a much larger facility that exists today. And whereas so too, in 1962, Tarpon Springs High School opened its doors to all students of Tarpon Springs, regardless of color. And whereas throughout history, the support of residents and businesses in Tarpon Springs and the nearby city limits, excellence is leadership and has evolved within Tarpon Springs High School in many ways and has positively influenced people's lives, both students and adults alike. And whereas the calendar year 2023 was a particularly successful year that demonstrates the outstanding leadership environment with public recognitions for achievements. And whereas the Sponger football team ended with a season of 9 wins and 1 loss, Sponger football head coach Jeremy Freud was named Coach of the Year by the Florida Athletic Coaches Association. And whereas the Tarpon Springs High School Band and the Tarpon Springs Leadership Conservatory of the Arts won the 2023 Bands of America competition for Class AA high schools and achieved the second highest score to date of any band. And whereas the Tarpon Springs High School Jacobson Culinary Arts Program achieved a 5-year certification from the American Culinary Federation, one of 2 5-year certification honors given in the state of Florida, and one of only 39 given in the entire United States. And whereas all of these achievements continue the legacy of a strong education and character building provided by Tarpon Springs High School since its first graduating class in 1906, 118 years ago. Whereas many of the graduates from these programs remain residents of Tarpon Springs, continuing to exercise their leadership skills and making Tarpon Springs the strong and productive hometown that it is today. Now, therefore, I, Kostas Vatikiotis, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Tarpon Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim our gratitude and appreciation to the students, faculty, staff, and parents of the Tarpon Springs High School Sponger community, and extend our greatest wishes and hopes that the achievement made in 2023 will continue in 2024 and all subsequent years. Whereas I have set my hand, caused the seal of Tarpon Springs, Florida, to be affixed on the 16th day of January. Congratulations, Spongers. I have a couple of certificates to present before we continue on. Please remain up here, Ms. Valides. If I could have Coach Freud come forward. I just want to let you know that besides myself being a Tarpon Springs Sponger Lime, Coach Freud is as well. Good evening. And also he played football with my son, who is a Tarpon Springs, on the same Sponger football team. So, welcome. I'd like to present you a certificate of recognition. The Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs present this certificate to Tarpon Springs High School Football Program head coach and Sponger alum, Jeremy Freud, in recognition of your outstanding performance, incredible work ethics, and exceptional commitment to our team. Congratulations on earning Coach of the Year of the Florida Athletic Coaches Association. We are proud to have you as our coach. Now, if I could ask Ms. Macris to come forward. Good evening. How are you? We have a certificate to present for our cheer program. The Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs present this certificate to Tarpon Springs High School varsity and JV cheer teams. For your dedicated sportsmanship and commitment to excellence, we recognize how much work and dedication goes into the art of cheerleading, and the hard work, skills, and long hours of practice to ensure success. Thank you all for a great school spirit. We also have 3 trophies, and these are very special trophies because for example, we give them to people that understand what they are. They're not astronauts, they're spongers. Coach Freud, if you could step forward. But I have to read this. City of Tarpon Springs, congratulations, Tarpon Springs High School Sponger football team and head coach Jeremy Freud, 2023 Florida Athletic Coaches Association Coach of the Year, 9 wins, 1 loss, great 2023 football season. You are done, but we're probably going to need some photographs taken, so stay up here. Mr. Ford, if you could come forward. There he is. I think you all know Mr. Kevin Ford.
$5 fine.
His reputation precedes him. Good evening, Mr. Ford.
Good evening, thank you.
I wasn't in band. I tried, but I didn't get it very far. City of Tarpon Springs, congratulations, Tarpon Springs High School Band and Tarpon Springs Leadership Conservatory of the Arts for outstanding achievements, winner of the 2023 Class A Bands of America competition. Now, this one is for something I know I really can't do. Chef Camacho, are you here? Please come forward. I just have to say, I wish Chef Vicente, there you go. I practiced his name, but obviously I didn't do very well. I just wanted to say his name. Thank you for being here in his place. I know he was a little under the weather today, or else he'd be here. Chef Camacho, I've got a presentation for the Culinary Arts Program. City of Tarpon Springs, congratulations, Tarpon Springs High School Jacobson Culinary Arts for outstanding achievements 2023, 5-year certification from the American Culinary Federation, one of 2 5-year certification honors given in Florida. So. Ms. Valdez, did you want to get some photographs with the school system people? Anybody else? You know, the one thing before we do, please come forward, but the one thing we want to do, I want to say, is that we've got some very important people up here, and they couldn't get to where they were without the students. And also, there we are. You guys all coming? All right. Why don't the dignitaries step forward about 5 steps and let everybody else get behind them? Commissioners, do y'all want to come forward too? Mark, come on, come on, come on.
Everybody go on that side too. right there.
Or they could come back here.
Yeah, they're big.
They could come in the back. Yeah, there you go.
Football team, let's stay up for a second. Let's get one with just y'all, if you don't mind, yeah. Jeremy, let me get one with you. Oh, of course.
Oh, so Neil, if you want to do the football team, we're doing a picture. I'm doing a picture, but I'm going to post on my story. Okay. Can I?
What I want to do,
I'm not sure.
all right, hey, Chris.
Listen, I'm doing a picture of myself. Excuse me. Sorry. Watch out. Hi, Coach Leslie. I like your jacket. Hi. Fatima, watch out. You're going to be in it.
I don't have amnesia yet, okay? Sure, great show. Yeah. Perfect.
Coach Freon.
Jeremy, it was good.
It does kind of. Come on.
He's
A little bit, you know?
Thank you.
So,
beard and everything.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Let me give an opportunity for our commissioners to say something. Let me start with Vice Mayor Eisner.
thank you, Mayor. I just want to let you guys know, you make me proud every single day to be here representing. And I enjoy watching the games. I've enjoyed how you've done. I'm very impressed with the fact that you've done better in school than probably I did back in New York in the days. And I need you to keep up the good work. You do make us proud every single day. And thank you for your hard work, and thank you for being who you are. Just strive for success. That's what I would tell you. And thank you.
Commissioner Krios.
Yeah, it's just, this is what community enthusiasm and support is all about. It's all about the youth and, you know, just trying to celebrate the traditions in our town and just the community school that we are. With the culinary program, it's amazing to see how much it's come since I've been in school. I graduated in 2005, almost 20 years, and the program was just starting off. And to see those accreditations and to be the 5th in the state and 39th and nationally, that's awesome. And big hats off to them. The band, Mr. Ford, you're a legend. You've done so much for this community and created an atmosphere with the band program that's just nationally renowned. And I just want to tell you, my favorite song is that beat line where the beat line's going at the end of it, the kids go, woo! And it's a perfect song that just gets the players going. And the football team, I am so proud of the football team. My final year was my senior year in 2005. Actually, Coach Davis is out in the auditorium. That was his last year coaching, and he had a big impression on my life and helped shape me into what I was. And I know Coach Friad did the same with you all. You guys are young leaders, and you're going to go into your next year if you're playing again, or go into your future careers or school, and you're going to be leaders. And football is a great sport that helps build character, and it was great to see Coach Friad out there building a program that kept you guys first. And all the coaches and staff, and from athletics, and just making it all happen. You made the city proud. You let people know that Tarpon Springs football is back. It's a tradition like no other, and you all who have been here, you deserve a lot of credit for the hard times, but the good times that you saw this year. And to the cheerleading team, you all are awesome. You bring some great cheers, and I've told Mrs. Makers privately, but now I'm gonna tell her publicly so we can get her to do it. She needs to bring back the Tiki Tiki Toomba cheerleading chant that we grew up with, and a lot of Tarpon alumni have been requesting it. So we can see it next year. That would be awesome. And so just hats off to the whole high school. It's the community's doing awesome, and great to celebrate you all tonight. Thank you.
Commissioner Koulianis.
Yeah, I want to congratulate all the programs, the culinary, the cheerleaders, the football, and the band. And it's I coached youth football, and my players are, Nikita Kavakles, Manuel Kavakles, Tommy Tsausis. They're all grown up. I saw Tommy at Epiphany, and he said he has a 20-year-old daughter. Oh my God. But I don't remember our record, but I remember the people. And, the records are wonderful, and going 10-1 is an amazing, it was 10-1, right? Yeah. Okay, it was an amazing feat. It's an amazing feat. But more important is the relationships you made that you're gonna have 20 years from now. And the coach, when you see these kids and they're all grown up and their kids are older than they are now, and they're still calling you coach, it's gonna be a special feeling for you. But I have a confession with Mr. Ford that I am responsible for taking out the third floor of the West Side Story prop in Atlanta. I've kept that to myself. When I hit the goalpost and I knocked out the third floor of the West Side Story prop. So if you ever wondered how that happened, I've now confessed it. So thank you for all you did for the kids and for my daughter as well. Thank you.
All I'm going to say is I'm very proud of you, and I do have a confession. I don't know all of you. I know all of your grandparents. Just like my sons are, 39 or 40 and 42 this year. They've got children that are approaching high school age, and I just hope that they're as successful and go to a school as strong as what we have at Tarpon Springs High School. It's always been a hometown high school, and the residents of Tarpon Springs, including the city government, is always behind you. Whether win or lose, we're going to be there. So congratulations, everybody, and many, many years of continued success. So what we're going to do now is take a brief recess to let, would public comment? Sure, go ahead. Do you have anything? Okay.
All these young minds that we can mold. Peter Lacus, 514 Ashland Avenue. Wow. Y'all are incredible. But a little history, like the mayor said, this, I believe, was the first high school in Tarpon. So you're in a high school. I want to show you something. Chief Young, Panayoti, the mayor, Mark, John, Irene, me. We're all Spongers. We all went to high school here. I went to junior high here when I think it was last or next to the last year was the junior high. So, as youngins, I'm not sure what grades you are, but you're going to want to go off to college and you're going to want to explore the world, and I recommend you do that because it will open your eyes to many things, many things. But you'll find at some point the bayous and the waters of this area has gone into your blood system, and you will come home. You will come home. But in the meantime, I want to offer you an option before you leave. I'd like to offer you an option before you leave. As the mayor said, they have your back. Make them prove it, okay? And I'm going to tell you how. Remember Ms. Fadalise when you were here last talking about lacrosse fields and expanding things. The city has on their files from years back when I was a commissioner a plan for a sports complex. A sports complex. From even when I was on the board, we've been fighting for a community pool. So, y'all get organized, put a petition together, send it to the clerk and the mayor and the city manager saying, get off your butts, instead of praises and plaques and trophies, give us a pool and a sports complex. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Are there any other public comments? Please, come on, Jeremy.
You have to.
I'd rather end up with Jeremy finishing this up than you, Mr. Delacus. So, Jeremy, please.
Just a real quick statement I'd like to make about these boys who are here tonight, because they, that's what this is about. Everyone knows the world famous greatest coach ever, Nick Saban, just retired. And Nick Saban had a quote. He's won more national championships than any coach ever, and he's just the most motivational coach ever. He made a statement that fits this so well, and it was, when you have your best people are your best players, your team will always find success. And every single one of these kids over here are great human beings, and I want that to be known. A lot of times on a football team, you have some kids that are, get away with being physically gifted but don't put in the work of others. None of that over here. These are an amazing group of individuals, and I just wanted to leave it on a really positive note like that. Thank you guys very much.
Okay. If there's no other further public comments, Mr. Jump, I'm going to ask you if there's any remote access. I need to do that.
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand. You'll be allowed in to talk. And we do have a raised hand. I'll allow the first person in. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Sharon Landrum, 45 West Martin Luther King Jr. Drive in Tarpon Springs. I would like to congratulate all of you at the high school for your achievements. And I applaud the city for recognizing all of you together this evening. It's amazing. I am not from Tarpon Springs, but my children were in the arts program in their high school, and I know what hard work and dedication it takes for all of you to be such overachievers. So I congratulate the city and all of you for your achievements. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Landrum.
We do not have any other raised hands at this time.
No, none other. Okay, thank you very much. What I'm going to do is recess at 6:59, and we'll reconvene at 7:10. Thank you all, Spongers. find out what it is in case we find it and return it to them. Okay, we reconvene the regular session at 7:10. City manager will be here in just a minute. Let's go to the public comments. Public comments on anything that's not on the agenda. Is there any public comments on anything that's not on the agenda? Mr. Geddes.
Thank you, Mayor. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live at 802 Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. This morning at the Pinellas County Commission meeting in Clearwater, the County Commission voted to begin installing reclaimed water meters and begin charging for the amount of gallons used by the homeowner who already must pay for the reclaimed water availability fee. Everyone must pay for the availability fee, which is a water tax. And if you don't want the county to discontinue your essential water access and shut off your potable water supply, whether you use reclaimed water or not, you must pay the reclaimed water availability fee. And now additionally, the county voted that we must also pay for a metered charge for reclaimed water, which is in direct conflict with Florida Supreme Case 96332 that ratified the reclaimed water bonds. Florida Supreme Court Case 96332, as well as the appellee's case ratifying the reclaimed water bonds, states that reclaimed water is a non-restricted, unrestricted, unlimited use of water for irrigation. I feel as though we got lied to. In my mind, reclaimed water is an invasive occupation, both contrived and invoked. I see it as a systematically built up, step-by-step hedge fund operation that could have been avoided. Some of us that have grown up around here in this area have watched the deliberate legislative misuse of the water supply, aggregating deliberately the water to aid and abet such insurrected occupation. I think this reclaimed water occupation is a total setup. Dana Young's House Bill 639 establishes reclaimed water to be soldiered inside our home for laundry and toilet use as things go on in the future. Senator Albritton last year in Senate Bill 64 feels that it's fit to put reclaimed water directly into the potable water supply. A stitch in time could have saved 9, but conservation and legislative preservation was apparently too difficult for our politicians, as based on the 14th Amendment, I feel as though we have a water issue that was deliberate in the making. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments?
Katie Taylor, 1991 Douglas Lane, Tarpon Springs. I was going to ask, matter of fact, if Chief Young had any follow-up on the request that it was made for the Spruce and US 19 going east, that left turning lane, when you get to the corner at the light, it backs all the way up to Lowe's. And when you get to the light, it's like a dodgeball game trying to go straight because some cars are turning in front of you. So you were going to check on that. I was going to ask, has there been any research on that?
Yes, Officer Boone's reaching out to the state on that because that's a state highway. We haven't gotten any word back from them yet, though.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Are there any other public comments?
Good evening. Peter Lacus, 514 Ashland Avenue, Tarpon Springs. So, over the weekend, had a lot of things to think about. And I searched for what to read tonight. And this is Psalm 43. Vindicate me, O God, and plead my cause against an ungodly nation. Rescue me from the deceitful and wicked men. You are God, my stronghold. Why have you rejected me? Why must I go about mourning, oppressed by the enemy? Send forth your light and your truth. Let them guide me. Let them bring me to your holy mountain, to the place where you dwell. Then I will go to the altar of God, to God, my joy and my delight, and I will praise you with the harp, O God, my God. Why are you so downcast, O my soul? Why so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him, my Savior and my God. Well, got the paper this weekend. It's nice to get it in print again. There's a nice article, Nature at Risk. And what do we got? All our, and I gotta say it, Republican majority up in Tallahassee are at it again. At it again. I want to put a bill out, Safe Waterways Act, to let you know if there's stuff in the water, not to go swim yet. They're making that nice all move to make it sound good, but if you look further back, fertilizer, they want to get rid of any fertilizer bans. There's another one here about local decision-making, taking it away, how fertilizer is handled and things like that. So in one side, they're throwing you a little bone, but in the other side, they keep degrading our rights. So, legal fees for failed permit fights, wetlands in focus, land and water management. A pair of bills would preempt local government dredge and fill activities to state environmental regulators. Environmental groups fear the bill creates an insurmountable financial hurdle for local governments when wetland protections are stronger than the state's baseline requirements. Another good one here, bills related to community plans. Oh, do we have community plans? Let's see. Residential building permits. 2 bills aim to streamline building permitting in a state reeling from hurricane. Okay, that's a justification, but opponents say they would also limit local government control over development. The bills would require local governments to create a program to speed up issuing residential building permits, reduce permit applications from 10 to 3 days, and make permits valid indefinitely. Hear all those words in there? Y'all are dealing with the Live Local. There's another thing in here about how they want to soften that up some more. You guys have got to step up to the plate. You talk about having these relationships with some of these people in Tallahassee. It's nice to get a little money. They throw you a bone, but in the meantime, they're taking all your rights away. Let them know you don't want to stand for it anymore. The people here in Tarpon are tired of it. We have home rule, and we need to be able to exercise it without people up in Tallahassee who don't know anything about municipal government telling us how to do it. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? You have a public comment? Okay. Go ahead.
I learned this from you. I learned this move from you. Anyways, okay, I better get going. All right. John Koulianis, 1020 Peninsula Avenue, Tarpon Springs. It is with humility and honor that I announce my candidacy for mayor of the city of Tarpon Springs in the next election. Kay and I have a deep and rich history in Tarpon Springs, dating back to the turn of the 20th century. We owe those pioneers a great deal for the struggles they endured to pass along this wonderful town to us. But more importantly, it is our duty and equally incumbent upon us to pass along a better town to our children and grandchildren. I will be highlighting over the next months a lifetime of volunteerism and professionalism that I believe makes me qualified to serve as your mayor. To me, it is all about PP, preserve and progress. I've told the story of my grandmother dying in 1920, giving birth to my Uncle Theo. Her body was carried by horse and wagon from the old wooden St. Nicholas Church down the dirt road of Tarpon Avenue to Cycadia Cemetery. The town has progressed a great deal since those days. We have paved roads, a robust business community, a state-of-the-art hospital, a college, and much more. Yet unlike any other community in Pinellas County, we have been able to maintain and retain our character and small-town feel. Mayor Vaticiotis and I have spoken many hundreds of hours prior to my attendance on the board about the structural changes necessary to help manage future density concerns. I believe it is important that the next mayor possess the strength and professionalism necessary to lead the community towards preservation as well as progress. I have always believed that a person is what they consistently do. I have consistently served the Tarpon community as well as the professional community, going back to my early days as a coach for youth sports at the age of 20. Kay and I are proud of our marriage of 43 years that resulted in the raising of two amazing daughters, both graduates of Tarpon High, who have grown up to be good citizens of this world. And we rejoice over the birth of our granddaughter, Paulina Kay, being raised in Tarpon Springs. I'll have plenty of time to share more about my family and a vision for the future of the town we all love so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that's got a public comment on anything that's not on the agenda? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you. Before we go further, I should let everyone know, in case they're kind of guessing, what this last comment was about. Today, we had both Commissioner Coulier and Commissioner Koulianis announce their candidacy for mayor for the March 2025 election. And I know at some point in time in the past, as of course I was a commissioner at that time, but also as mayor, I refrained from doing anything that appeared to be politics from the dais in support of myself running for mayor, and I'd get up and make a public comment. There's other things that I wouldn't do from the dais, and I'd gotten up to the podium and made a public comment as well. So I think that's what Commissioner Koulianis was up to as well. So I hope that kind of clears up a little confusion. Let's go to the consent agenda. We've got attorney's fees, number 1, Johnson Jackson PLLC, invoice 12233. Number 2, approved name change, American Consulting Engineers of Florida to Consor Engineers. Number 3, increase file number 220137-C-AS, Laboratory Testing Services. Number 4, award file number 230048-C, Satellite Water Leak Detection Services. Is there any commissioner that'd like to pull any of these items for questions? Anyone?
Number 3.
Number 3, okay. Let's go to public comments on items 1, 2, and 4. Any public comments on any of those? Mr. Jump, is there any remote access comments on 1, 2, and 4?
If anyone online would like to make a public comment on these items, please raise your hand. You'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay. If there's no comment from the commission on 1, 2, and 4, may I have a motion to approve 1, 2, and 4, please?
Mayor, I have a comment to make on number 4.
You have a comment to make?
Comment,
Okay,
yes.
sure.
I wanted to say that I spoke today with Tommy Carger, and I was pretty impressed with this satellite water leak detection. We had a decent conversation, and I want to thank you. You enlightened me to a number of things. It was a good conversation, and I think this will help find leaks. And if anybody wants, I don't want to follow up too much about what we spoke about, but I think it's an excellent new idea on how to stop any sort of leaks before they get to the point that we're really losing a lot of water. So I thank you for your knowledge, and I thank you for enlightening me to this. So that's all I really wanted to say. It was really good to have this thing come about. It'll save the city a lot of money.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other commission comments? All right, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulianis?
You
Yes.
gotta turn your mic on, Irene.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Okay, item 3, Commissioner Eisner, you have some questions concerning that. Increase file number 220137, laboratory testing services.
Yes, that was another conversation we had as well. I know we're stuck with this, so I did want, if Mr. Kiger would come up and somewhat explain some of what we spoke about today. On the phone, it was just a lot of money increase, and I don't know if there's anything he can do about it, but I asked a number of questions as far as how it got to almost doubling the cost. I know that we've been losing more and more people, but if you could, in your own words, give a little bit of a synopsis of what we spoke about.
Yes, I'd be glad to with the permission of the city manager.
Yes.
Okay. Thomas Kiger, Assistant Director for Public Services. We reviewed the contracts for our environmental labs. We use, for the benefit of the public, we use environmental labs for testing our water and wastewater samples for compliance with FDEP permits, and that's to protect the environment and to protect public health in the case of our potable water system. These contracts are both bid by other entities. We piggyback them, and we in order to get the best rates from larger municipalities. We find that to be the most cost-effective way of doing so. There was an increase in costs from Eurofins, one of our labs that we use primarily for potable water systems testing. Over the summer, we've been working through that, trying to examine what this means for our costs. There's a variety of different types of samples we collect throughout the year, and we want to see if we could make it work with our previous authorization. We're about halfway through the year, and we realized that with the sampling plan that we have coming up for the year and the additional cost increases, we needed an increase in our annual authorization. There are two things driving this need. One is the cost increase from Eurofins, but that's only a part of it, and the other part is that there are two large biannual sampling events that are required by DEP that we'll be doing this year that we did not do last year. And that was something that we want to make sure that we provide funding to address. In an ideal world, we would have caught that when we did the original calculations for the authorization, but they requested a similar authorization to what we had done in the past, and with the increase in unit rates, we require an increase to complete those biannual sampling events for DEP. To be responsive to your concerns about unit rates, I have directed our staff to review the unit rates between our two labs to make sure that we're getting the best deals and look into that further.
Thank you, Mr. Kiger. Are there any more questions?
Well, I just wanted you to, this was an increase from last year to this year, correct? It was a one-year increase.
Yes.
Okay. See, I wanted you to bring this up because we caught a lot of flack when we had to increase, water rates, and I want to make sure that the residents know what we're having to deal with, so that they understand. They may not like it, but just like I don't like what I heard, but I have to go along with it, and I will support it. I'd like you to get me that other information, and I just appreciate the conversation today. It was enlightening, and I enjoyed it, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other commissioners' questions or comments on this? Commissioner Kulianis, anything? Okay. Public comments. Any public comments on this item?
I will quickly thank you, Mayor. David Ballard Geddes Jr., Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. As I attend Tampa Bay water meetings and Swift Mud meetings, they've been promoting the direct injecting of reclaimed water into the aquifer. The Sharp and the TAP program is a aquifer augmentation program. I feel as though anaerobically introducing a temporarily chlorinated nitrate load into the aquifer is not going to make our groundwater supply any cleaner. I feel as though the upwelling of water at Wall Springs has been compromised. Again, those of us that have lived here for some time can remember Wall Springs of what it was as to what it is today. The contrast is startling as to what is upwelling from the aquifer. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments on this item? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, if there's no further comments from the commission, if I may have a motion and a second to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. I'm going to quickly go through the ordinances and resolutions at 7:30. And item 11 is ordinance 2023-24, building and fire codes. Ms. Kardash, if you could read the ordinance by title, please. This is second reading.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 2023-24, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, updating the references to the current versions of the technical codes in sections 6-1 and 7-12 of the Code of Ordinances, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance. This is second and final reading. This ordinance was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only on January 3rd, 2023.
Okay. City Manager, of course, is there anything new from the first reading?
And I don't think Mr. Gillison has anything new to present, but he's here if there's any other questions.
Okay. Let me go to public comment. Any public comment on this? This is for adopting the brand-new codes as we do whenever they're made available and ready to be adopted to keep our building department up to date. Mr. Jump, any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions on any of this? If there's no further comments, roll call. Do we have to do anything else? Just a reading?
We need a
just a
motion.
vote, right? Just
We have
go
to
ahead.
have the motion and the second for,
So
to
moved.
approve it.
Okay, Ms. Jacobs, roll call, please.
Second.
Oh, we didn't do that, okay.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes, thank you. Item 12, Resolution 2024, -01, finalize appointment of Vice Mayor. Ms. Kardash, if you could read the resolution by title, and then I'm going to
Mayor?
ask you to.
Mayor, in a moment, I'd like to make a case to reconsider this item.
Say it again.
I'd like to make a case to reconsider this item.
Are you making that in the form of a motion?
Not yet. I'd like to give the reasons why, then make that motion.
Okay, I'll read the resolution by title and then you
And then
can
turn it over to
entertain.
Commissioner
Yes.
Kulyas, okay.
All right, Resolution 2024-01, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, appointing Commissioner Eisner as Vice Mayor of the City of Tarpon Springs from January 10th, 2024 to June 6th, 2024, appointing Commissioner Kulyas as Vice Mayor of the City of Tarpon Springs from June 7th, 2024 to November 2nd, 2024, and appointing Commissioner Kulianos, Vice Mayor of the City of Tarpon Springs from November 3rd, 2024 to March 31st, 2025, and providing for an effective date hereof.
Thank you, Ms. Kardash. Commissioner Kulyas.
Yes, and at the last meeting when we had this appointment of vice mayor, I must say it was embarrassing for the residents to see us as a commission not be able to come to an agreement. I've had a careful thought about it. I've had a lot of time to think about it. And as I go over these reasons, I believe we should go back to our rules. You know, and I'm going to end up nominating Vice Mayor Eisner. Hopefully we can appoint him as vice mayor, and I will nominate him again in April, even with a full board, as our rules state. When we don't follow rules because of ego, then we have effectively let the residents down. I want to set aside my ego and nominate Vice Mayor Eisner now for the 3 months and again for the rest of the year in April. But I don't want to waive the rules to do that. When we waive and break rules, we lose trust in the residents who have elected us to come up with decisions based off the rules. We balked the resolution, as our city attorney can help bring up, and that's why the resolution is being brought in front of us again today. So now is the time to make it right to the residents. When we set a precedent in breaking and waiving the rules, it became a circus I want no part of. The King Solomon approach was the wrong way to create equality when grown men can't come to the decision. Breaking rules and waiving them for participation trophies and to hunt campaign credentials caused us to lose sight of what we are elected to do, and that's serve the residents. Waiving rules creates a wild, wild west. And we've set a precedent now in this situation that doesn't look good. You know, when one of the board members said it's a good deal when everyone is feeling a little sour. I wasn't sour because I didn't receive a full vice mayor term or even the 3 months. I was more sour that we had to break the rules that the people depend us to follow to make it right. And the truth is, Vice Mayor Eisner, he is right. He was being shortchanged, and he deserves more than 5 months. He does attend nearly all ribbon cuttings and events. Vice Mayor Eisner deserves to finish former Vice Mayor Lunt's 3 months, as I will motion to do if there is a reconsidered. And then I will make that motion to select him again in April, as our city rules state. I think he will do a great job from now until April 2025 as Vice Mayor. And I highly recommend Vice Mayor Eisner second the motion, or Commissioner Kulianis second the motion, so we can go back to following the rules. These are important rules. And when we break them for equality, as I stated before, we're letting the residents down. And so, in a moment, as elected officials, I'm hoping we can do the right thing. We're gonna elect one person as the rules state, and then follow back up again and keep our word for the April, when April comes up, when we'll have 5 board members. But I'm not gonna jump back and forth. When I say I'm gonna make that motion, I'm gonna do it. And as I stated, Vice Mayor Eisner does deserve it. And so at this time, I make a motion to reconsider the Vice Mayor 3-way split appointment.
Okay, let me, just from a procedural perspective, Ms. Kardash, can you kind of enlighten us on how we would do this? I don't have an issue. I didn't have an issue last week or whatever it was, but how would we do this if the rest of the commission wishes to?
So in order to revisit the issue, you do have to have the motion for reconsideration supported by the Board of Commissioners. If the motion
Who prevailed last time.
correct.
Okay.
So there would, he has made that motion. There would have to be a second and a vote of the board to reconsider that item. If his vote fails, then you vote on the resolution as it's been drafted and as it's been read by title.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have a motion. Is there a second? No second. I would say that there was enough time to say that the motion died for lack of a second, but I appreciate what you said. Sure. Yes, yeah. I'm just going to make a comment on the waiving of the rules. We had reached an impasse, but I want to take, many of you that are here remember the very first motion to stay concerning the Anclote Harbor at that time. There were a set of rules for the meeting that were passed around to the attorneys involved, and they said, yeah, those are fine. And then they were given to the commission, and then we had our meeting. And then I said, well, okay, well, during that meeting, I said, I want to ask some questions of the applicant at that time. I said, no, and I think it was the attorney at that time said, well, you can't ask questions. I said, what do you mean I can't ask questions? He said, well, those are the rules. I said, I'm not sure I understand. And he said, well, if the mayor wants to waive the rules or divert from them, it's up to him. So I asked the mayor at that time whether he would at least give me that courtesy. He says, no, we all agreed to him. Nobody agreed to him. The only people who agreed to him was the attorneys. The commission never agreed to anything. We had a rules of procedure in place for conducting meetings. We also had quasi-judicial procedures. None of those two were followed. And those were imposed, the rules that were agreed to by the attorneys were imposed on us, which in that particular case, we were acting as judges in that matter. If you roll the clock forward to the second hearing, when I was mayor, I developed a set of rules of procedure that we're going to follow. The very first thing that I asked the commission to do at that time was to waive the rules. They waived the rules, and then I asked them to adopt the rules that we were going to use for the meeting. And they were adopted, and it was a fair process where everybody, it was more of a quasi-judicial where the commissioners were able to ask questions and then comment later and that sort of thing. So there is a precedence for waiving rules when they need to be waived, certainly during an impasse. And I appreciate Commissioner Kulyas rethinking this, and I would like to see more of that going forward. And I think in fairness to the other two commissioners, I think that they would have preferred that approach as well. So, and then of course the seniority thing was something that I'd researched with Ms. Jacobson. There was no procedure or process that determined who the senior person was, although there was a process involved some time ago, but then that quickly fell apart. And I know Mr. Delakis was probably one of the first recipients when instead of it going to a senior person, it went to somebody else. And so I'm familiar with that as well. So anyway, I'm just kind of glad that we didn't get a second on that. And at this point, we're back to the original resolution, Ms. Kardash?
Yes, correct. Now, the resolution as read is before the commission for consideration of approval.
Okay. And that would be to accept what was done at the last commission meeting. And if you could just help us with giving us I think that it's a little more specific than what we dealt with at that commission meeting.
Correct. So what you had voted on and approved at the last Board of Commissioners meeting was the three-way split, beginning with Commissioner Eisner, and then Commissioner Kulyas, and then Commissioner Koulianos. And the city clerk looked at the time frame that was at play and divided it evenly between all three commissioners. Okay. And that's what's memorialized in this resolution. And I would point out that you do need to have a resolution of record for your vice mayor pursuant to your charter.
Okay. I've got Vice Mayor Lunt's light on. Vice Mayor Eisner, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question. If
Ms. Kardash?
Yes, it's Ms. Kardash. So if a person, for argument's sake, Commissioner Kulyas does not wish to take on the vice mayor, what would happen?
So in the event that he declines to accept that appointment for the time frame that's set forth in the resolution, you can either vote to fill that time frame, or you can split it evenly between yourself and Commissioner Kulianos. And that would be, again, at the discretion of the commission.
Okay. I just want to make a statement. I did not nominate myself for an ego position. I didn't think the vice mayor was an ego position. Had Vice Mayor Lunt stayed on, I would have been very happy. I'm happy to take it on, and I appreciate your goodwill and comments, but I think it's fine that we all split it up if somebody doesn't want to do it. I'm always happy to jump in and do it, but I just don't want to go back and forth on these types of decisions. We have this resolution, and I just want to put this to bed, move on, and if somebody doesn't want to do it, I am happy to continue or not continue with that vice mayor. My job is to do what the residents need me to do, and that's all I'm looking to do, so that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you. All right, who's Commissioner Kulyas tonight? That's you, Commissioner Kulianos, okay.
Yeah. Well, how about if I just make the motion and then we have discussion on the motion, okay? Can I do that?
Yes, you can do that.
I make a motion, we approve Resolution 2024-01.
I'll second.
That's it?
Yeah.
So
well, now
I want to stop for a second, because we do have to have the public hearing.
Public comments, right.
I realize that in the midst of the commissioner comments, and I apologize, Commissioner Kulianos, would you mind withdrawing your motion so that we can entertain public comment and have the public hearing on this item?
I withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
Can we go to public comments? Yes. Public comments, please. Any public comments on this item?
Peter Lacus, 514 Ashland Avenue. Well, Tarpon TV, channel 641, tune in at 6:30 for your latest hits as to what's behind door number 1, 2, or 3. We got a couple of doors open today, didn't we? Changes a little bit of what I was going to say, because I don't know, you're turning a little ceremonial thing into something that's so much bigger than it needs to be. I don't know if it's for individual political purposes or grandstanding or whatever you want to call it. One of the things I was going to say is coming up for the elections of March 2025, instead of Panayotti and John running against each other for mayor, Panayotti and Mike should run against each other as a commissioner and let the citizens decide, one way or the other, how to quit this squabble. It was a very nice gesture to come back after the fact to say, okay, let's give it to Mike. Very nice. But I think Commissioner Kulianos at the last meeting was trying to find a way to give either of you two guys a way out in a statesman-like fashion. So, personally, I think it is embarrassing to have 3 vice mayors for 4 months and a couple of days, really. I disagree with Commissioner Kulyas about extending it all the way to April 25, because you are going to have a new commissioner in August of 25 or 24 beyond whoever's appointed. And if you appoint somebody in February, you're going to have a new commissioner in April who may disagree with your wanting to commit to a future vice mayor. So with all this thing, give it to Mike till the appointment comes, April comes, you'll make a decision to go from there, and everybody will have a way to vote. But in the meantime, I would like our esteemed attorney to clarify that if this motion fails by a 2-2 vote, then I would think at that point the floor would be open to a brand-new motion for some type of a revised resolution. But I only stand at your knowledge for that aspect, because it was talked about as far as it passing, but if it doesn't pass, then I think the floor would be free to entertain any brand-new motions. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Commissioner Kulyas, I'm going to let you speak first after this.
Debbie McKinney, 1021 Rose Tree Lane. I just I've been here for the last several meetings about the taking over for the mayor, vice mayor, I'm sorry. And
Mayor would be okay too.
I just want to say, you know, it's like tonight I have a gut feeling that there's reasons going on under the table that this new motion was brought up. And my gut is usually right, so I don't know what it is yet, but I'll figure it out. But it needs to stop. And are we going to fix the rules so that there is a permanent rule about how we go about getting a vice mayor? Because I understand the seniority thing, they both have the same seniority, but that's not written anywhere about what determines seniority. So whatever the rule is, we need one that says how it works to get to be vice mayor. And I'll let you know if I find out what that gut feeling is.
Well, I was going to say, the political season is starting, and you're going to see a lot of stranger things happen that you're going to be wondering about. That's why with Commissioner Kulianis making his announcement, I felt I needed to clarify that a little bit.
Thank you.
And,
I meant to
you're
say, God, I miss Craig.
Okay, thank you. And I think we do need a different procedure than what we're doing, because there's a track record of really, it's not been very good for any commissioner up here trying to politics get involved, and we need to do something like the county does, which I think is a rotating chair, I think.
Correct. And there are ways to do that. I know you have a charter revision coming up. And you can put something that's permanently in your charter that talks about how that seat can be rotated amongst the commission. Some communities do that, some communities don't, it's something to consider if you want that before your voters.
Okay. We went to public comments. I allowed the two commissioners to my left speak, and Vice Mayor and Commissioner.
Do you do remote on?
Mr. Jump, any remote access comments? Thank you.
If anyone online would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk.
Oh, and Ms. Taylor too. Please come forward, but let Mr. Jump finish up first, then we can go to you.
And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, Ms. Taylor, please.
Katie Taylor, 1991 Douglas Lane, Tarpon Springs. Last week when I was here, it was a lot of back and forth about who was going to be vice mayor. And with all due respect, Commissioner Kulyas, it was a lot on your part. So I'm kind of surprised to hear tonight that you've rolled it back. But being that you have rolled it back, I want to make sure I'm understanding that you're not interested in being vice mayor at this point. If that's the case, then I would recommend that you equally share it between the two gentlemen that's willing to do it. So it won't be a lot of back and forth tonight, because it should be pretty simple. She said you can either give it to Commissioner Eisner for your term to him full if it's voted on, or you can split it. To be fair, just split it and let's just move on if you're not interested. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Thank you.
Commissioner, is there anyone else? Commissioner Kulyas, please.
Well, as politicians, we got to come back and realize when you can make things right, you should, especially when there's an issue that's getting brought back in front of us. And there were plenty of statements of people not wanting the position, and then it all got put in, and I'm just not going to be part of that tarnished title. It's been tarnished at this point, in which, as I stated, we had to waive the rules. We set an unprecedented situation in our city's history, and I'm not gonna take no part in it. And so, as I mentioned, I would be willing to give all of my 5 months to Commissioner or Vice Mayor Eisner, or hope we could just get a 2-2 vote and do it the right way. And so, I don't need a title to get me where we want to go. That's simple. I don't need it for credential labeling or hunting. And so, after a few days to consider, which we've reconsidered a few options on different items, I'm not gonna be part of that. And moving forward, I'm not gonna waive rules for participation trophies and equality. It's a wrong thing to do, and it looks bad on our commission, and the residents don't appreciate it. So frankly, to see a couple of commissioners not wanting to go through with it and follow the rules, I think it's a bad reflection on how we want to try to get things done moving forward. So, as I stated, I'm not interested in the vice mayor title at this point.
Okay. Commissioner Kulianis, you have your light on.
Yes. Clarity after the fact is interesting. This whole vice mayor, especially when I said the ego thing, and I apologize to Commissioner Eisner because I wasn't directing that at you, and if you thought I did, I apologize. This has just been going back to my brother's time 37 years ago. It's always been a hot item. People feeling, having hard feelings over not getting that appointment. This procedure of ranking, and then, somebody has equal amount of time on the board, but yet they have more outside board experience as a method for ranking. I thought it was a good method, but it hasn't always been followed. I think both of the mayors up there, former mayors up there, have jumped over that.
Nothing, you're Kate.
Oh, okay. So both of them have jumped over that and chosen who they wanted. As a matter of fact, last week, I tried to hand that off to the mayor to make that choice, whoever he wanted, and I said, I will acquiesce, and I'll actually make the motion for whoever you choose. But that's not what happened, and then we ended up with our, Solomon arrangement. And waiving the rules has been done countless times in the city of Tarpon Springs. This board has done it several times. Like the mayor said, it was done during the Anklet Harbor thing. And so waiving the rules is not an unusual thing, and it's not something that is, I don't think, concerning to the citizens. As far as the resume, my resume is deep, and I don't need a vice mayor tag to give me any credentials. I've got a lifetime, like I said. I have a lifetime of experience on countless boards, and I don't need a vice mayor title to pad my resume. It's the announcement that I made isn't the first commissioner to make that announcement. The Mayor Vaticiotis, and that's when I said, hey, it was Mayor Vaticiotis. I'm just following his precedent. The mayor, when he announced that he was running for mayor, left the podium here as a commissioner, left the dais, walked up to the podium and made his announcement for mayor. So that's why I was just following your lead on that. So that's exactly why I did that. Like I said, I was fine any way you chose, and if the mayor had said, here's who I want, I would have acquiesced to that. I don't think this is necessarily a bad arrangement. I'd be fine if I had the role of a vice mayor without the name. I want to be able to, to have the opportunity to step in if the mayor were to not be able to do that. I've got experience with the gavel dating all the way back to when I was president of my college fraternity, holding the gavel then. So I've held the gavels quite a few times in my life and would have no issue with doing it again. Again, that's how my resume goes way back. So I'm fine with this arrangement. If Commissioner Kulyas doesn't want to take his, he can give it to Mr. Eisner, Vice Mayor Eisner, and that'd be fine. Who knows? I might give mine to Vice Mayor Eisner later, but that would be a choice of mine. So each person can do what they want. I think this isn't a crazy arrangement. I think it's a fair arrangement. Everybody gets their 5 months, and it's you do your service. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. You're done? Oh, go ahead, Ms.
Yes, so there was a statement made that I do want to clarify for the commission about your ability to give your appointment to somebody else. That's not how it works. You can't specifically give your appointment to Commissioner Eisner. Commissioner Kulianos cannot specifically give his to Commissioner Eisner. It has to be voted on by the board. If the board votes to pass this resolution and one of the commissioners does not desire to fulfill their term, you do not have to vote on that or deal with it until your June 4th meeting. And I say that because Commissioner Eisner's appointment goes through June 6th. Your last meeting before June 6th will be June 4th. At that point, you will have another member on your commission, and you can deal with how you want to fill that vacancy at that time. All you can do is relinquish your appointment or not take your appointment in that regard. So if that can be the manner when you deal with it, you can revisit it then in June.
For example, hypothetically approving Commissioner Eisner to continue on through 2025.
Correct.
Okay, that's all. All right.
In June.
In June. June 4th is the meeting that would be just prior to the expiration of Commissioner Eisner's current appointment, the way that it reads in this resolution. So, and there was a number of ways you could deal with it at that time. You can fill just the term that you would have filled, or you can redo the appointment at that time. It would require the passage of another resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Kardash.
Vice Mayor
Lunt. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Eisner. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things have been said, and I just want to clarify. One thing is that I don't think it's an issue to change the rules of procedure. We make the rules of procedure, so if you make the rules of procedure, you can change them as long as we get an agreement. I think we had an agreement last time. I don't know, I understand the idea of thinking things through and coming up with different ideas. The only reason I even put my name out there for the vice mayor was because, and I said this last time, at all of these functions that go on in the city, the mayor is there at 99% of them. Ex-Vice Mayor Lunt has been at 99% of them, except when he hurt his knee, he was not present. And the only reason I know this because I was present at them as well. And I'm not even looking to make comments about other commissioners, whether they can make it, whether they can't. I know there's employment on this end. I know there's employment on this end. My employment is the city. That's my employment. So I can make everything. My list of what I have, just to give you an idea, tomorrow is the seniors, and then the sister cities, the Citizens Academy, which I know you're going to be at. I will as well. We have a swearing in the following day. this is what my schedule is, and that is why I put my name out there. It wasn't an ego thing, or I would have put my name out there for the last time. So I'm doing it this time because I feel that I will be present at all of the events that's humanly possible for me to get to, as long as I'm not eating at two different dinner tables, and that's the reason why I'm doing it. This is, from what I understand, I'm a second to sign a check. That's what a vice mayor does. They're the first person to open up an agenda item when the mayor brings it up, and a couple of other things. You get to speak when the mayor's not present. I usually speak whether the mayor's present or he's not present.
You speak whatever you want,
Thank
Vice
you.
Mayor.
So this is not going to change my life, and I'm willing to do anything that would appease the board. I just don't want, yes, a lot has happened today. We did get some situations changing through email, so, you know, I want to do what's right for the residents, not for what's just right for posturing. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kulyas.
Yeah, and I'll make one final argument that is what's right for the residents, Commissioner Eisner, and I understand that you do attend a lot. And sometimes, you know, we have to put our differences aside to realize what's good for the city, or at least from now until, you know, our terms. But hopefully it goes in a 2-2, so this can get brought back up. And the splitting it's embarrassing, as Mr. Delacos said. And I'm willing to give it up. Another commissioner states they're willing to give it up, but not really. And so it's out there. And so we're either gonna keep waiving the rules every time we can't come up with a decision and do our King Solomon approach, or we could try to make it right and fix it. And so I'm not gonna support the resolution, and I'm hoping somebody else does it. And trust me, we'll make it right. We'll make it right. But it has to happen first. So, thank you.
Okay. Now we may have the motion on the
Yes, Mayor.
resolution.
I make a motion, we accept resolution 2024-01.
Second.
Okay, do any commissioners have anything else to say?
Just one more time, it's your last chance to unwaive the rules that the residents of Tarpon Springs figure us to follow, and not include participation trophies, and they're watching, and so I'm not gonna be part of any of this gamesmanship or, you know, so-called trophy participation.
Do you have more to say?
I have more to say, yes.
All right.
This is the last
Thank you.
comment. Irene, is this a hindrance or a help? Is it better? I'm putting you in the spot here on this one. Is it a hindrance to have these 5 months for each of us? I mean, honestly, is it better to go ahead and just not go ahead? Boy, you don't like being put in that hot seat.
Let City Manager LaCourse mention, there is some overhead associated with what we're doing.
It's because the thing is, I don't want to cause an issue. You know, last time it was a little contentious. We were all vying for it. And if that's the issue, you know, then I would change my vote just because of that, but for no other reason. I mean, you let me know. Is it better? Period. I'll let you know.
I won't say better or not, and I will say we can accommodate pretty easily either way. One thing that's changed, of course, Ron Herring has to change the bank records and stuff, but it's really minimal, and it's not a circumstance where whichever way you go, that staff isn't going to have to go out of the way to accommodate it. There are some nuances you have to do, but I think I'll speak for Irene. We can easily do whichever way this board decides.
I think the point is if you do something like this permanently in the future, just be sensitive to the fact that we need a resolution to change signatures, and it would be better to make it as long as what people would be comfortable with rather than.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
But Mayor, we also have a situation where we have another commissioner coming on board, and that commissioner should have the
That's right.
same voting power, which we would be removing from them in April.
Oh,
Or I should say
think
before
Ms.
April.
I think Ms. Kardash has advised us accordingly with a June date. And also she mentioned the Charter Revision Commission, which is going to begin in, I would think, the April, May timeframe at the very latest. They're going to be hearing this. And honestly, the word embarrassing has been thrown out there, whether it's embarrassing or not. This has been problematic for 10 to 15 years,
Yeah, I
even
know.
more. So it's got to be fixed. And whether in March of 2025, the voters get a question on a new process, I'm hoping it'll end there. So any future commission doesn't have to deal with the same stuff as we do. If we don't fix it, it's going to continue on.
That I
So,
agree.
I understand.
I agree.
Okay. So I think what City Manager LaCour said, there is some practical issues, but he feels the staff can accommodate with what we've got right now, and I'm hoping that answers your question.
So
I know.
this motion goes tied, we can end up going back to the original procedure and rules.
If it's tied, then yes, we have to go back to reconsider a resolution and an appointment that's different than what's in the resolution
For the
as
three-
drafted.
For the 3 months, so then in April, once we have the full board, we would actually do another appointment, but for the whole year.
Correct. That's it. That would be if you're not,
Originals.
so right, if what your point to do is to do it in a manner that does not waive the rules, then this appointment would only be for 3 months, and then you would have to reconsider it again in April pursuant to your adopted rules of procedure.
That's the route I would like to go. I've already stated my stances. You're gonna have to believe on who I am and what I say and what I'm up here saying. And 3 months, we're gonna make that appointment. If it's up to me, I'm gonna be the first one to make the same appointment come April, and that's my word.
Okay. Thank you. No other question? You have,
No, roll call.
we have a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Jacobs.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
No.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Okay. That was Resolution 2023-24, item 11, I'm sorry, item 12. And this is item 13, which is the signatures that we were talking about just a minute earlier, Resolution 2024-02. Ms. Kardash, if you could read the resolution by title, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 2024-02, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, designating certain officials as authorized signatories on negotiable instruments of the City of Tarpon Springs. This is first reading, public hearing, and final reading.
Okay, let's go to public comments. This is more of housekeeping to add Vice Mayor Eisner to the signature list in case I'm not available. Some things take 2 signatures to approve, city manager being one and the mayor being the other. Are there any public comments on this item? Mr. Jump, any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand. You'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay. Are there any commissioner comments on this item? May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Item 14, Resolution 2024-03, Charter Official Salary Ranges. Ms. Kardash, if you could read this by title, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Resolution 2024-03, a resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, authorizing an amendment to the salary and classification plan for certain charter officials and providing an effective date hereof. This is first reading, public hearing, and final reading.
Okay, Mr. LaCourse went through this a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to ask him to go ahead and remind us all about what this is about.
Yes, as a reminder, when we did the changes in the ranges to accommodate the position of assistant chief, those salary ranges that we moved were at the same and equivalent as your two charter officials, the city clerk and the city auditor. So obviously, to be fair, in another resolution, we need to move them up to the same ranges as the top department heads that got moved. We need to make them equal. It was equal beforehand, so by doing this resolution, the city auditor and the city clerk move into the same range with the group that they were before we made the change for the assistant chief position.
Right, and the key point is no monetary change.
Yes, no monetary changes.
Okay.
Just the range.
Salary change, I guess.
Just the range.
Okay. Let me go to public comments. Any public comments on this? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Okay, may I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes.
Yes. Do y'all want to take a break? Does anybody want to take a break, or shall we continue on? Continue on? Okay. Let's go to special consent agenda. Number 5, award bid number 240041, Elfer Spur Recreational Trail Project.
And I'll turn the presentation over to Bob Robertson.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Bob Robertson, Project Administration Department Director. For this item, we're asking the board to award a construction contract to Sun Civil LLC for the construction of the Elfer Spur Recreational Trail segment in the amount of $1,718,696.39. This project consists of construction of an extension of the Pinellas Trail along the former CSX Railroad corridor. It's known as the Elfer Spur, and it's owned by the city. This project will install about 1.1 miles of new asphalt concrete trail. It'll provide a safe connection between the current northern terminus of the Pinellas Trail at the North Anclote Nature Park up to the new coastal Anclote Trail in Pasco County at the county line. Funding is provided through the Penny Fund, Recreation Impact Fund, and a state grant from the Recreational Trails Program. That's the staff report, Mayor.
Public comments. Are there any public comments on this item? Mr. Geddes.
Thank you, Mayor. David Ballard, Geddes Jr., Georgia Avenue, down in Palm Harbor. As they've established a bicycle path nationwide, and in my mind, I consider that to be an easement of such where we could run utilities underneath that. Why wouldn't we want to utilize the space underneath the bicycle path for water mains and other public functions beneath the ground? Would be an available space for future use to pave over the ground without recognizing that we could use the space under the ground. I think would be short-sighted. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Mr. Jump, any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner comments. Do we have any commissioner comments? Okay, may I have a motion and a second to approve, please?
So
I'm
moved.
going to say, hang on a second. Commissioner, I'm sorry. Vice Mayor Eisner, you've got your light on. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to ask how much reimbursement are we expected to get back from this? Because I see there's 2 state grant reimbursements. Are we talking about 19%? Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, that's right, 328,000 from the grant.
That was pretty much it. It was just to clarify because it was a breakdown of two different areas, so I just wanted to make sure. So we're gonna pick up about 80% of this, and they're gonna pick up about 20%, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kulianis.
Bob, this might be a Ron Herring question, but is this within the budgeted items on the project list that we were shown several months ago?
I believe it is, yes. Showing on a penny and recreation
City
impact.
manager, it is? Okay, thank you.
There's no further questions on the commission. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
We did already.
Oh, okay.
You
We
made
did
the
that already.
motion. Is there a second?
We already did.
We did that already.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Okay, City Manager LaCourse, project update and direction.
Yes. We'll be talking Monday at our work session about the projects we're getting started in 2024, but obviously there's some holdover projects that we're working on that's of great concern to the commission and to the community. So we wanted to bring this to this agenda here since we really won't be talking about those on Monday. And I'll turn it over for those projects that we all know and has been involved in and gone through the heartaches of getting them through. And Bob will give you an update and give the commission a chance to ask any questions on those projects that's been going on for a while. Bob?
Okay, thanks, Mark. So again, Bob Robertson, Project Administration Department Director. I'm going to highlight 6 projects that were listed in your backup. We'll just go through them one at a time here. I'll start with the clerk's office building construction. We haven't seen much action on that project since before the holidays, and the primary reason is a delay due to structural door frames, which I understand is the keystone to doing the masonry work, and then the roof trusses. So it's sort of the choke point here right now on the project. As those come here, I was told today delivery is expected Thursday. You'll see work start up pretty quickly and move pretty fast on that building. So hopefully that delay is going to be resolved here quickly. Do I need to just stop when I get through one project, go one project at a time? Okay.
Do you want to talk about the slope, the issue with the slope? You want to talk about that issue also?
Sure. So there was a question about the elevation, the base slab, the finished floor elevation of the design, and the difference between that and the nearest road. It does meet the code. There's a 14-inch differential. I think 12 inches is what the code requires. It doesn't look like that. I know it's hard to see when you're standing out there, but we did have it surveyed and confirmed that we're okay there.
Okay. That's good. Let me try and figure out, if we do this one at a time, why don't we do all of them and then go to public comments and then come back to the commission?
Sounds good.
Okay, go ahead. Bob?
All right, sounds good. I'll go on to the Pent Gross project, the stormwater construction project of the street behind me here. This morning, we had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor. They're going to begin ordering materials and staging machinery this month. As work nears completion of the other city projects that they're working on, in the very near future, we're going to start to see more and more activity out at this project site. Contractor told us that they will be using 2 construction crews on this project, starting on either end. Their goal is to beat that 18-month contract schedule that we have. So, a good meeting with them this morning. Should start seeing some action soon on that project. I'll move on to the South Spring MLK intersection project. This project is set to start construction at the end of this month. Last Friday, the public notice was sent out that the intersection is going to close down for 60 days starting January 29th. We'll see some activity starting next week as the contractor is mobilizing. They're going to bring in equipment, moving materials, getting it staged up and ready to shut down on the 29th. We did put message boards out, and Judy put the word out through all the proper channels. So we've given hopefully plenty of notice for everyone to know that is coming. Let's see. I did those. Let's do Mango Street Phase 2. This is the extension of Mango where we left off just east of Diston. This project is nearing completion and looks to be finished on schedule by early March. And then the Lemon Shattuck Brick Street project. This project is also nearing completion and should be finished in February, which is about 3 months ahead of schedule. So we've got a couple good projects finishing up, a couple big projects getting started, and with that, Mayor, I'll end my staff report.
Let me go to public comment. Are there any public comments on any of these items, on any of these projects?
Debbie McKinney, 1021 Rose Tree Lane. One concern I have is to make sure that the school buses are able to reroute. There's already plenty of delays with school buses, and many of them cross that bridge and come down to MLK to get to alternate 19. So, and they shouldn't all go through Mears instead. Maybe we could route them around the bayou another way, a Riverside to, you know, up around that way. But that was my only concern when I heard that. I'm happy that's happening. I'm just concerned about the buses. The other thing is, I held my comment for this part because it said projects, and I didn't know, do I have to comment on just those 3 projects, or can I say something else?
I'm sorry, say it again.
I had a comment about projects, and I held it for this, but it doesn't apply to those 3.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to readdress the project that we had discussed a long time ago about opening up Diston, and I think that needs to be talked about again. I don't know what the result of that was. I thought it was tabled, and so now I would like to know more about where we go from there.
Yeah, actually, that is a very good point, because we've got a couple of things in with Forward Pinellas, I believe, for distant improvements, not opening the roadway, but some other things that came out of that study. So maybe we could talk about that at the workshop. That's something that I know, for example, Allie's, I've seen her down there talking to the staff and making presentations, answering questions on behalf of the city. And I don't know where we are on those projects. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's not to build anything, but it's actually to get some more money to design and the access from Mears, I think, pedestrian access to the colleges, I think is what the idea is, so, okay.
Yeah, we can do that, talk about that.
Yeah, that would be at the workshop. Okay. Any other public comments? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay. Let's go ahead and do a motion to, we don't need to approve anything, right? This is just okay, so let's
accept the report.
Right, let's go Vice Mayor Eisner. You have your line.
You'll get that after a few weeks, that Vice Mayor Eisner. I'm just kidding with you. One thing.
It'll change, I hope.
That was there just to confuse you.
It's not helping tonight, so go ahead.
So one thing I wanted to clarify, since I did take over for Vice Mayor Lunt, and he reads everything, I kind of heard you say that there were 6 items, but there is really 5, correct?
Yeah, I didn't count right, so.
Okay, so I needed, I have tough shoes to follow, so I just wanted to stay with that. You made mention about the Pent Gross Stormwater Project construction, and that they were working on other projects. What other projects are they working on in the city?
This contractor is the one that's finishing up the Mango Street project and the Lemon Street project.
Okay, and there's enough manpower for him to do this project from both sides?
Yes, he's finishing up those now. He's going to start moving them in.
Okay.
And I will note, it's the 2 projects that are on time and early, and I don't have many of those on my docket, right? So just want to note that.
I don't need any more egg on face. So as far as the MLK, I made mention to the city manager And I'm going to make mention to you, I still want to have, since we are going to tear up the road quite a bit, I don't know how far back, but I want to have that road slightly tilted away from the homes that are on the water and tilted towards, and I'm not an engineer, but I just have a little bit of common sense, not much, but I want to have that drainage, not anything elaborate. I just want a regular drain. So if we had that, and I know it's Murphy's Law, but we will have it, where we have a king tide and we have heavy rain at the same time, there's just nowhere for that water, and I don't want to have flooding on MLK again. So I want to have a way for that water to go into that overfill over there, should that happen. It's not that far back, and I think it would be beneficial. So nothing elaborate. So the other thing that I know Ms. McKinney got up to speak about the closing of this, yeah. But I'm on the school transportation safety board, and they're the ones that deal in this, where the buses go. And what I'd like to do is I will try to make a call and speak to who I have to speak to, because the next meeting is not till February 28th. So I think it'd be kind of late to the supper table to, get that out. I'd like to let them know what we're gonna do beforehand, unless that's something you're gonna let them know.
You want to note the process of us letting them know?
Well, through our PIO, the school system is one that gets notified of road closures, including busing and
Okay.
everything related.
Because I agree with her. I don't want buses
No,
going there, yeah.
It's a standard process that we have that.
Okay.
Yeah, and they also, Chief Young has a standard thing to go over before it goes into effect with them to make sure we're all on the same page with the school board anytime there's rerouting to go. So it'll be confirmed before the date that road's closed that the school and the city and everybody's on common ground and accepts the best route to do, and whatever accommodations we have to make as a city to make that route as
Okay. I just want to, if I didn't say it, I wouldn't feel good, so thank you. I feel good.
But you can let them know too.
Yeah.
Make the call also, please.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other commissioner? Thank you, City Manager LaCourse. Thank you, Mr. Robertson.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 7, appointment to Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. Let me just go ahead and talk about this a little bit.
Do we have to accept the report?
Yes, I don't think there was a motion to accept the public projects.
Motion to accept the report.
Correct.
I'll make a
Do we
motion
want a
to
motion
accept.
to accept the report?
I'll make a motion to accept special consent agenda item 7, projects update and direction, accept the report.
A second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes, I guess the distinction is if we don't have a motion to accept and a second and vote, then this sort of update needs to go to the presentation section. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So for everybody's benefit, that's the distinction between the two. Appointment to Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. Let me go ahead and get this started. Vice Mayor Lunt was the representative for the city at that, and it's basically a huge organization that transcends counties, and usually you'll have, not usually, always you'll have county commissioners there, Pinellas, Pasco, Hillsborough, and it's a real good place to kind of get an idea of what's going on with the area, and then also it's a little bit environmentally oriented as well, which is important. And I know Vice Mayor Lunt has run into, for example, opportunities to see a Pasco County Commissioner and ask them about what's going on at the Anclo Park, the boat launch area with the restaurant and stuff like that. So there is an opportunity to obtain information from that organization, and it's something that, and where they meet is at Gateway, which is just south of Almerton Road, and it's a very easy, it's just right off US 19, very easy way to get to it and come back. So I don't know who would be interested in doing this, but I'd like to open the, let me go to the public comments first. We're going to have a nomination in a second. Any comments on this from the public? Any public comments? Mr. Jump, any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do have a raised hand. I'll allow the first person in. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Board and Commissioners. Peter Delacus, 514 Ashland Avenue, Tarpon Springs. As the Mayor mentioned, this board has to do with a lot of environmental aspects. I believe from what I've viewed over the years, Commissioner Koulianos is the one most concerned and interested in environmental aspects, and I would recommend that he be nominated for this position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jump.
And we do not have any other raised hands.
Thank you. Okay, let me go to the commission. We're going to follow the standard approach to this, which would be taking a nomination from the floor of the commissioners, and then depending on how many there are, then we'll go to a motion and a second for any of the nominees. So are there any nominations, or you can nominate yourself or whatever you'd like to do? It meets once every 2 months. Go ahead.
I nominate Commissioner Koulianos. I also think he would do an excellent job. It's 6 meetings. They're about 2 hours, and I don't know if it fits your schedule or not.
I can make it fit.
But I really think that you do this justice, so that's my comment.
Are there any other nominations?
I nominate myself. Those are days I can meet every other month and Monday. Just go from there.
Okay. So we've got 2 nominations, Commissioner Koulianos and Commissioner Koulias. Let's have a motion and see if there's a second.
I make a motion I nominate myself for the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council.
I'll second that.
Okay, Ms. Kardash, let me know if we're doing anything out of.
Right, so just to clarify, the motion is for the appointment. The nomination's already been made. Is that the motion that you intended to make?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have the motion, you entertained, you gave each commissioner who wanted to nominate somebody the opportunity to nominate somebody, and you have a motion on the floor. You can move forward with the motion.
Right, okay, thank you. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Are we going to have discussion?
Do you have a question?
No, discussion. There's a motion on.
You want to have a discussion? Sure.
Yeah. No, I would thank you, Vice Mayor Eisner, on your recommendation. I mean, the environment has been extremely important to me, and I would have I would value being able to represent the city at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. I've had a lot of experience with officials all throughout the county, and working even on forensic cases with different municipalities. So I think I could do a good job in representing us. So thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Koulias, which would be, that was you, Commissioner Koulianos, okay. Any other comments or roll call, please?
Commissioner Koulianos?
Yes.
Commissioner Koulias?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8, appointment to future Forward Pinellas position. I'm going to start that one off as well. I received an email from the Executive Secretary at Forward Pinellas advising us of pretty much the progress of the organizational change where we were given our own seat on the council. And it's still before the governor, and I'm hoping it won't be too long before he signs it and gets it back to us. There's also that chance that he creates a tri-county regional planning council as well. There's that chance as well, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen for a while. And so basically, to talk about a lot of things organizationally, there's a workshop that is planned for mid-February, and they've asked for a city representative to attend that meeting. And I just felt probably it's time that we go ahead and put somebody, nominate a permanent member for that to represent the city. And it is an important position in the sense of covers both transportation and planning for the area. And you pretty much get an idea of firsthand where things are going, although we're somewhat unique here in Tarpon Springs. Up until this point, we were part of a 3-city group of Oldsmar, Safety Harbor, and Tarpon Springs, where we shared a seat every 3 years, 6-year rotation. And Oldsmar was finishing up theirs, and then we would take over. But now it would just be the 2-seat arrangement between Safety Harbor and Oldsmar, and then we were given our own seat because of our unique location. Commissioner Eisner has been attending those meetings, and also he's on the Forward Pinellas School Transportation Committee that has been doing some work, lighting and so forth, initiatives and things that for our school children. So, and he's been attending meetings where I've not been able to attend. It's just, there was an issue that kind of became problematic for us getting our seat, that when it was our turn to take the 2-year rotation, there was a problem with getting our representative to attend those meetings. And because of that, that actually came up when we were having this discussion on the Forward Pinellas giving us our own seat. And I assured many of the mayors down there that that will not happen in the future. And so we've made a point of having somebody attend these meetings, either myself or Commissioner Eisner, and honestly, it's been Commissioner Eisner up until this point, to make sure that we kind of kill that whole notion that we're not interested in the county's planning and the transportation process. And as I said, we've got a couple of projects on the books right now that I'm hoping will get some status coming back on that. So that's all I want to say. And we're going to do the nomination process. So I'm going to, a couple of lights have come on. I'm going to go to, actually, let's go to public comment. We haven't gone to public comment yet, right? We've not done public comment.
You have not.
Let's go to public comment. Are there any public comments on this item?
David Ballard, Geddes Jr., Georgia Avenue, Palm Harbor. I understand that the want of this Forward Pinellas board concept. I see it more as a kind of a supplemental board. But in order to enfranchise the purpose of that board, does it take away or disenfranchise from other establishments? That would be my concern, that it's not just supplemental, but it's more of a disenfranchising of something else that's been established. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Geddes. Are there any other public comments on this item? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, Vice Mayor Eisner, you had your light on first.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. We were represented at Forward Pinellas by Jared Buckman from Oldsmar. He had to resign due to the Form 6. Being at that last meeting, I did see that they made an announcement that Oldsmar appointed a new rep. So I know he will be at that Forward Pinellas workshop. I have that Forward Pinellas workshop in on the 14th. It's a Wednesday from 10 to 12:30. And it's to give a projection of what they'd like to do for the year. So I'm happy to be there. I was asked if and when we're going to join this board. I didn't have an answer because we don't have an answer. I mean, it's up to the governor to sign it. So I'm happy to go to the meetings and represent the city. I will say this, that if you're not there representing, it's, that map seems to just stop somewhere around Dunedin and Clearwater, and we're like in a foreign country, Reminds me of the map of New York, where after 11th Avenue, there is nothing. And so...
It's very parochial. They take care of themselves.
Yes, yes. And, if you're there, you can make comments about, what's happening to the orphan child up the north. So I have spoken at a few of the meetings. They're they're looking forward to having a representative. I seem to get along with most or all of the, representatives, but, you don't know who's going to stay, who's going to go. So that's all I want to share.
Commissioner Koulianis.
I was going to nominate myself. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, this one's a no-brainer. Vice Mayor Eisner has worked extremely hard for us to have that spot down there. I know he and the former Vice Mayor Lunt again worked very hard. I attended one of the meetings and I've seen him work the room, so I know he will be effective, and I'd like to nominate Vice Mayor Eisner.
Okay. Commissioner Koulianis,
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna nominate Vice Mayor Eisner. He's been there when we first initially started fighting to get the seat. We were all there making our
thank you.
statements, and he deserves to be up there.
So we still go through the motion and second, Ms. Kardash?
So if there are no other nominations, then he can be deemed to accept the seat.
Okay. Congratulations, Vice Mayor Eisner.
Oh, I couldn't nominate somebody else?
If you
That
want.
was just a joke.
Okay.
Yeah, funny guy. Okay. Thank you all for the cooperation on that item. Okay, number 9, discussion and implementation of special counsel's recommendations. This was something that we talked about when the report was made, that there were 5 recommendations. There was from the report, there was a 6th with regard to a little bit of a surprise that the attorney contract may not cover all legal matters, and I just wanted to confirm that that's what we had. So, City Manager, of course, do you want to do this, or is it?
I want to start because I want to apologize to Attorney Kardash because I just read my backup, and I meant that her and I were going to be discussing. It makes it look like she's handling this whole thing. So I want to apologize to her because I just read it and said, whoops. So I'll just go ahead and start, since some of these are, well, in my mind, easy. And let's start with the 2 that are the easiest and and we're looking at letting you know the time frame and when this is going to be done. 1 and 5 are the easiest because we don't do either. We stopped that when this issue came up. The part of involving an attorney in any form of writing a city, that's not been done since it came up and won't be done. And the last one about an outside attorney talking with a city employee without a city attorney, both of those have not been done. So it's simple the case of where it'd be over the attorney, the writing up with the appropriate document and get it before you to document that how Ms. Kardash best feels it would be documented. That can be pretty fast, and I can assure you we don't do it now. We don't plan on doing it, and I'll defer to her on those when that can be written. Also, the 6th that you mentioned about, she's already working on that. She can address the 6th one that's up. The 2 that the 3 middle ones that we're working with planning is the tracking of when we track when pre-development come in. The third one is the developer's handbook, and then a training process. Those are going to take a little time, especially
Training for the P and Z.
P&Z and the BOC.
Okay.
That's going to take some time with Ms. Kardash, and that'll probably take the longest. We may address, we're going through our presentation for Monday, and we may address in planning 2024, we may address 2 and 3, because that's kind of mostly from the planning aspect. Again, working with Attorney Kardash, I'll have her address her thoughts on her time frame on 4. So basically, it's just writing and doing something that we've stopped a long time in getting done. Hopefully talking about 2 and 3 on Monday in a brief portion of what plannings, and kind of give you a better timeline on Monday as we're working through that. And then the one that may take the longest is the training process for the P&Z and the BOC members. That's from my aspect, and I'll turn over to Attorney Kardash to talk from her aspect.
Thank you,
Ms.
City
Kardash.
Manager LaForest, Mayor. Just briefly, I was going to just kind of go through them one by one, starting with the first one. Like your city manager said, that's something kind of you've already implemented. A lot of times, it's actually not uncommon to see developers propose changes to the code, and oftentimes it's something that is friendly to their development. What I typically do if there's no policy in place is I actually make the, or request that, if it's something the developer wants that bad, that they make the presentation on the ordinance themselves to the city. It's not certainly something that's required, but it also makes it very clear and very transparent that they are coming forward with this, and then, to request then, why they actually want it. That's something that you can do. You can implement a policy that says that, put pen to paper and say, this is the policy. Getting down to the one on the handbook, that is something that you could put in your handbook if that's the policy that you want to enact, that when there are developer requested changes to your code, that they actually be the ones that come and present what change they want and why they want it. The second one, on the meetings between developers and staff, that's actually something that's very common. I think that that's something that I just always assume happens, because they do have to meet with staff. They do have to go through their applications. They do have to kind of get guidance oftentimes on what the city code says, how it's been implemented, and things like that. So I just always kind of assume that there is that meeting that occurs. But certainly having an online system makes it a lot cleaner and a lot smoother. So that's something, and that's not something that I would do or put in place. That really would be very staff dependent. And I believe with your new agenda software, that certainly is something that can, be tracked and easily implemented into the staff reports for you all. So you have a much clearer picture of what those staff meetings are, and also to what occurs at those staff meetings. The developer handbook or guide, again, it would really essentially be a policy document that gives further direction not only to the developers, but then also to staff on how to handle and how the commission expects them to handle certain aspects of the development and application process. That I would not anticipate any sooner than 6 months to a year. It's something that would likely require at different levels and at different points in time commission input on what you want to see in there, how you want that follow through to look, and then also too, as part of the handbook, you can then have approval of certain documents like, the staff reports as standard questions and issues that you would want for certain documents that could be included in the back as part of the approval of that ultimate guide. The training process, obviously, you all were at the training that we did in a workshop setting that was specifically directed towards the board. That really didn't deal with a lot of developer issues, though. It didn't, we didn't really touch too in depth on the quasi-judicial process. I like to hold annual trainings so that you know you're getting this every year. It's just a check the box that every year you're doing some sort of training, some sort of revisiting of what these rules require you to do, whether or not you're in compliance with the different laws and rules, and also an update essentially, because the law is not a stagnant thing. You know, the law can change. It can change with case law. It can change with different kinds of legislation. So holding trainings annually is really, I think, the best way to kind of start that process and have it in place. I have found, particularly where you have elections in March and you have new people coming onto the board, that doing those trainings in late March or April is usually the best. Also, too, usually after that first commission meeting where you have new members, a lot of people, you do yours a little bit differently, where I think you make most of your appointments in January. Is that correct, Irene?
I'm sorry?
When do you make most of your board appointments?
It varies.
It varies from board to board. So that could be something that becomes more standardized for the city, so that after you have that new election and the new members on your Board of Commissioners, then you can make all your appointments at the same time that are up for renewal or up for a change right after your new board then comes into play. So then you have your new commission, your new boards, and all your trainings to go along with it. In terms of something that is a more robust, in-depth, deep dive into your land development code and your comprehensive plan, you may have noticed that you've already kind of started that with your planning and zoning board. You've had many, many meetings of the planning and zoning board to talk about the comprehensive plan that's coming forward as part of your evaluation and appraisal report. And so that really is a deep dive into what the future of Tarpon under your comprehensive plan is going to look like. You know, you're putting standards in place under your comp plan about, you know, building development and all these things that shape your land development code, right? You know, your policies, your goals, your objectives all go into your comprehensive plan, and that particular document is then what has to translate into compliance with your land development code, right? So you already have that kind of process in place, and that's, I believe, on a 7-year cycle for your evaluation and appraisal reports. So every 7 years, you take another look at this document, you implement changes that are required by state legislation, and then that document gets its refresher. What I have started doing, and it is a little bit of a cumbersome process, especially when you have boards that are subject to change, is going through the land development code literally a piece at a time. And that can be very tiresome. It would probably look similar to what you've been doing with your comprehensive plan in terms of all the meetings that the Planning and Zoning Board is having. And the other community where I started on this process to kind of start to help them understand and pick apart the land development code and the consequences of the code provisions that are already in existence and what they may want to change. It's already been over a year process, and I am going to kind of look at it a little bit closer, because now I'm getting new members on that board that don't have the benefit of the previous training. So looking at a better way to do that may be something that we consider, so it can be done within a year, so you have the members that are actually getting the education making the decisions on the changes that you may want to implement into that. So there's a lot that you can do with how you want to structure those trainings and that education, and certainly something that can be repeated on an annual basis or on a 5-year basis. Irene, on your charter, do you do it every 5 years?
It's every 5 years.
Yeah, so something like that where you have every 5 years a comprehensive review. And it would make sense, or even every 7 years, so it follows your comprehensive review of your land development code, then follows the review of your comprehensive plan. So if you do that, you're changing your comprehensive plan, which is your goals, policies, and objective document, and then looking at your land development code, which your, I will say that your planning staff has done an excellent job of identifying the changes in the comprehensive plan that are going to be then changing your land development code. So I do anticipate seeing that come forward in terms of changes to your land development code that are being required because of the changes that are going to be brought forward for your comprehensive plan. So those are my initial thoughts. Not really much of a timeline, but I think some ideas for
And
you.
then the attorney's contract review, that would be the 7th, or the
Right.
16th.
So I believe, because I do have to do that in coordination with Attorney Salzman, so we have to get together, and I would anticipate bringing something forward to you in April regarding that. And again, this may be something that is looked at in terms of how your charter is structured with respect to your city attorney, the responsibilities and duties of your city attorney within your charter.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues on that one because we're required to do a performance evaluation, and like I said, we're using the standard employee, and we're evaluating things that may not be in the contract, and that we need to be very careful about that. Let me go to public comments. Are there any public comments on this item? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do have a raised hand. I'll allow the first person in. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Peter Delacus, 514 Ashland Avenue. With regards to the recommendations from the special counsel, I think it's wise that we go ahead and implement the items number 2 and 3. Those seem to be very easily done because this way we have what is going on within the city, behind the scenes, in a more transparent way. As regard to item 1, with regards to checking off the box, I would agree with, excuse me, City Attorney Kardash that really the best way is staff to present the information, and if a developer or someone wants to provide a contrasting language or opinion, then they come to the meeting and express it in public. This idea of having a checkbox and a developer statement and they've already written a language, it's too easy to come to the board and say this is what the city agrees on. Now, if the city would like to make a statement to support a developer's thing, that's fine, but at this point it should be all done in public. And lastly, I just have to follow up on a comment that was made a number of months ago when the special counsel report came out. At that point, a number of the people who refused to speak to the special counsel said they were vindicated and they were clear and it shows they did nothing well. And then there was one, Commissioner Banther, who blamed the mayor and this board for all the costs, $160,000 and the lawsuits and all that stuff. And I just would like to remind the public and this board and those who may watch this later that it was revealed in the special counsel report and previously that Commissioner Banther brought the Morgan Group to the city. So if Commissioner Banther hadn't originally brought this to the city, all of this facadilla and mess for the last 3 years would not have occurred. So thank you, Commissioner Banther, and you do have some responsibility in what has occurred. And as the mayor had previously said, we appreciate the fact that we can get some rules out of this commission report so we can move forward in a more transparent way. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Jump,
And we
any
do
other?
not have any other raised hands at this time.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Eisner, you have some comments.
Yes, thank you. I am pretty much looking to do this in a workshop where the main thing is transparency, and that's what I think all of this corresponds to. I did want to start this off, which I didn't do, in thanking Ms. Kardash. You are a blessing in disguise. You know, what you preach is all good stuff. I do want to thank you for bringing these things to our attention. We're not attorneys up here, and I don't particularly care to have an attorney dealing with our planning and zoning board one-on-one. I think it should, and I understand, you know, when you're doing a development.
You mean a developer's attorney?
A developer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When you have a developer, they don't want to give out, they want to pry and get information first before they spill their guts on what they want to do. And I understand that. But I do think we need to have an attorney also present during some of these early negotiations because, again, transparency, and again, our planning and zoning board is not an attorney. And I understand how attorneys want to change our code, and that's all fine and dandy, as long as it's transparent and it's in agreement to having our attorney there, and it's something that can come before our board. I don't want our planning and zoning board giving any ideas on how they can change things, which has come about. That's not our job. The other thing is we touched base a little bit with the quasi-judicial hearing, and in a quasi-judicial hearing, the one thing that I think we really need to institute is teaching the Board of Adjustments and any of them that do quasi-judicial, including our own, you know, to declare your findings of fact. That's what the first comment that the attorney speaks about, because it's not legislative, it's not making new rules, it's following rules already established. So if you're going to make a determination, you should make a determination with the findings of fact of what you get out of that meeting. Another thing that I've also noticed that when I listen to some of these cases, which I want to institute, is not allowing, you know, individual committee people to bring their own insights of, yeah, I know that area and it's heavily walked. Well, the rest of the committee doesn't know that. So you're bringing evidence in when you're supposed to be making judgment on the evidence that comes before you. It's not, you're not there to bring evidence. You can ask questions of the people to get that information. And it's a difference of you supplying it versus that you can pull that from people. And of course, I'm in agreement to most of this. I'd like to go through this board and all put our heads together. We're all smart people, and try to see how we can make this as foolproof as possible so that everybody's happy about it. But I do want to thank you, because I know it's not an easy thing, and we do have a lot of loopholes that need to be, you know, patched. So, thank you.
Commissioner Kulianis, got your light on.
I'm in agreement with Vice Mayor Eisner that I think this warrants a special session. I think all these items, and I think we all have ideas for even to expand on those, and I would think a special session on these fundamental changes would be important. But just some observations on these. You know, the transparency, you know, the conversation between try to clear up my thought here. When you have other attorneys drafting items, like our city attorney said, it's not unusual to have the other side draft something and propose it. I think that with the Include Harbor situation being that it was, such a sensitive issue that it had the appearance of being, I don't want to say manipulated, but I don't think that's a good word. Just that having the other attorney drafting the majority of the language could have the appearance of being problematic, right? Like we say, it's not unusual, but in cases. So I think, all these things, again, having some kind of I think Renee Vincent should be here for these kind of discussions as well, because a lot of this is in her venue. And let me ask you, the Attorney Kardash, where are these mostly going to be codified? Or when you talk about rules, where do they?
Right, so policy documents, typically you see adopted via a resolution. And a lot of times, particularly like, a personnel manual, you have the resolution that's the front page that adopts that and incorporates it within, and then you have your bound document that becomes, your personnel manual. A lot of this could be in something like that, like a resolution, or in that handbook that's suggested there. Because you have to remember, resolutions, those are temporary statements, and they're a lot easier to change than ordinances. It's when you start looking at the changes to the land development code that they become more permanent and more cumbersome. And I do just want to clarify, when you talk about a developer like drafting, they shouldn't be drafting the ordinance itself, right? What I will typically accept and what they'll typically do is just some suggested language, or if it's a density or a height issue, what it is they're looking to change, and have them present that. Then if that is approved by the board or by this body, then you go back and you reduce that into the actual ordinance. So it's a little bit, just a slightly longer process, because they're bringing that forward first for you to even say yay or nay, you want something like that. Of whatever the change may be, right? As far as actually drafting, that's as far as I will usually have them go, because they are not necessarily government attorneys that understand what needs to be in that individual community's ordinance or resolution, right? But in terms of where these go, I think that most of this would be appropriate for a policy type document, more so than looking to make changes to your code of ordinances or your land development code.
Yeah, and when we get into the detail of these, it would be most likely, I would assume, the city attorney is the one policing most of this, because it would be difficult for the planning department to determine how far the opposing counsel is taking it. So again, and then that goes back to some of the items here that number 5, it says that the city attorney needs to be involved, where I think there may have been situations where the city attorney was absent in that process. So it would be, you would be the most qualified to police that situation more than having staff try to do it.
Some of that can depend on staff's comfort level. Yeah. What I will say is that I don't know if you just look at it from terms of an attorney that represents private parties. I don't know any attorney that represents a private party that would be okay with having an opposing counsel or a counsel from the other side that's negotiating talking to their client without their attorney present.
Absolutely.
This kind of gets into that same realm with the organization, obviously, as the client. It's that same thing. I don't necessarily want outside attorneys talking to my client about certain things without me there and without me present. And it's only when there is an adversarial relationship where it rises to the level of a bar violation, but that's how serious that is.
No, I agree. And then, again, in a special session, we can get into the details, like even this implementing an online meeting request process, you know, again, the devil's in the details, wondering like, what are they, you know, what does the input sheet look like? You know, what's the information that's necessary to be received? You know, not just, you know, these two parties met on this date. It's, you know, what's the subject matter, and then getting into some depth. Again, that would be in implementation of, you know, of the online process. So I think all these things are great, but I really do think we need a designated session on this. So thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Kuyas, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm looking for a designated session, and I just want to be clear, we were all up here in many different capacities talking about what we were looking for. These are the results. We can clean it all up for the residents and be as transparent as possible, but we all wanted this. We all wanted this research. It's gotten to us where it's gotten to us, and the residents are more aware than ever about land use changes, about how things work and how things need to get set up in order for changes or big developments to happen, that the citizens need to be awoken up at that time. And so here we are now. Let's have a session and let's work together to implement them all. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to be real brief. The one thing with attorneys dealing with staff, developers, attorneys dealing with staff, put yourself in the staff's shoes. I've had that conversation. They're uncomfortable with that. The city manager knows that. But there's nothing there to alleviate that problem unless we have the attorney there as well to provide that cover when that other attorney's talking to our staff. If you go reread, I don't think I need to remind you all, reread the special counsel report and you'll see what the issue is. The city attorney at that time for those two key ordinances was not involved. And I think that that was one of the issues. If our attorney was there, it makes a different, you know, it's a different issue altogether, and they're more comfortable for our staff to actually tell the developer's attorney what they really think. You know, and I think there would be private conversations between our city attorney and the staff to kind of get a consolidated thoughts together before they go have that session with them. So the other thing too is when we have that meeting, special session or workshop, whatever, I'll leave that up to the city manager and Ms. Kardash. If we could have a schedule.
Yes.
As far as how, whatever we decide at that meeting, have a schedule kind of in front of us beforehand of what we're talking about based on your recommendations, and also the memorialization process, whether it's personnel rules, which is something that I would think would be the case, or because somewhere you're going to start losing track of all these resolutions that were done. The other thing too, Ms. Kardash and City Manager, we're coming up on the budget rounds. I don't have an issue I know we're booked. I don't have an issue. I keep asking Ms. Vincent if she's comfortable, if she needs help. Don't be shy. I don't have an issue with having a training consultant or something, or somebody that could work with Ms. Kardash, put something together. Also, from a developer's manual, there may be something already out there that would be very easy to bring on board, purchase the rights for that, bring on board, make our own changes. There may be other communities that have that as well. What I'm saying is, I know our staff is very, very busy with all the updates, the strategic plan. We're still working on the, you know, the implementation of that. And Ms. Kardash, I know you've got a lot of work that you're doing for the city right now. So don't be shy about that. Whenever we have that meeting, come forward with some ideas. I don't think the commission would object to that at all. And hopefully the timing will be consistent with your budget process. Okay. What we need to do is, again, the same thing is approve the approach discussed between the city manager and Ms. Kardash and the commission to move ahead with the recommendations and then come back at some meeting in the future to flesh them out in terms of how we're going to actually do them. So if I may have a motion to that effect in a second.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Okay, number 10 is discuss and approve the process for appointment of Commissioner seat 2. Before we get started, Ms. Kardash is going to help us through that, but there's some things that she has in her memorandum that she provided us that probably the most important thing is that some things have to be decided before we actually open the nomination process. For example, we need to adopt the rules of exactly what we're going to do, including the dates, whether we're going to interview applicants, allow them to make or have them or they can make presentations of their own accord or none of the above, plus the time limits that we would do that, and then also the dates of when each phase would happen. The one January 16th, which is today, would be ideally opening up the nomination process. The other easy one, I think, is February 20th, select the commissioner. And then, but the key is this February 6th date. If we don't have anything that's required of them, like interviews and things of that nature, then that date would be easy enough to where we could close the nominations at some time in the afternoon, 3 p.m. This is some discussion I had with Ms. Jacobs as well, so she can collate the names and provide those to us on February, at the meeting of February 6th, so we know who the applicants are, make that announcement publicly. Or if there's some interview that is going to be required of the applicants, then we're going to need to know that sooner than that of who the applicants are, and then ask them to be at the February 6th meeting or whatever other meeting is going to be needed, special session, I guess, or workshop, as Ms. Kardash outlined in her memorandum. So there's a lot of options here. So I wanted to mention that. And Ms. Kardash, I'm going to ask you to add whatever you'd like, and then also keep us on track of what we need to do so that we don't drop anything.
Yeah. One of the things I did want to point out, because we had the question on it, was the requirement regarding the August 20th election. So the item that I wanted to make sure you all understood is that the appointment would only be until that election. And if they want to keep the seat for the unexpired term, which I believe would end at the March 2025? 2026. So then they would run in the August 20th, 2024 election, and if they were successful, would keep the seat until the March 2026 election, correct? Yes, okay, thank you. They are not required to do that, though, if they do not want to keep that seat. And if they are in that seat from the time you appoint them and then they don't qualify to run or submit their papers for qualification for the August 20th election, they don't have to. They don't have to do that. If they do put in their papers and they're the only person that qualifies, just like any other election, they would be deemed to have that seat, and it would only be for that unexpired term that was left vacant by Vice Mayor Lunt. I don't know if there were any additional questions. You do have a lot of those options. I think getting the timeline in place and making sure that when you open this and solicit candidates, that you're clear what you expect of them is what we want to accomplish this evening at this meeting. And with that, I don't know if there's any questions or if you already know a direction you want to go in.
Vice Mayor Eisner, you got your light on.
Yes, I don't have so much.
Go to the public first.
Okay.
If you want to, yes.
Let's go public comments first, I'm sorry. Public comments, any public comments on this item?
Interviews
Okay. That was former Mayor Anita Proto speaking, public comments. Okay. Are there any other public comments? Mr. Jump, any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do have a raised hand. I'll allow the first person in. If you can, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Peter Delacus, 514 Ashland Avenue. Having been provided a copy of Ms. Kardash's memo, I would like to have her maybe elaborate a little bit more about the last paragraph in page 2. The commission cannot add additional qualifications but on what is provided for in the city's charter. So she also mentioned later about how questioning candidates about certain things could lead to some type of other action as far as, and I'll let her elaborate, but according to her, it's basically by the charter saying 1 year prior residency, a registered voter, and those things. So I would like to hear a little bit more about that. And as far as public interviews, that would be okay to do for a person who may be interested to express their interest, just as at a forum or those natures, but I am a little more concerned about hearing what Ms. Kardash may say about the aspect of what has to be revealed or spoken about in regards to qualifying for an appointment. Thank you.
Mr. Jump, anyone else?
And we do have another raised hand. I'll allow the next person in.
Hello?
Yes, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Sure, Mark Washburn, 124 East Lake Drive, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34688. I just have a quick question, clarification. If someone receives these several months of the seat, then runs for the full term after that, are they then term limited out because they've served 1 1/4 of their term, or can they run for another term after that? That's my only question. Thank you.
Ms. Jacobs, go ahead and answer that, please.
Yes, so the appointment does not count as a term. However, the unexpired portion does. So if they were to run for the unexpired portion in August, that would count as 1 term, regardless if it's 1 month or 3 years. And they would be able to run for 1 additional term.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Washburn. Mr. Jump, is that it for comments?
That is all the raised hands we had. We do not have any others.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Eisner.
Thank you, Mayor. I did read through this, and I don't know how in-depth. First of all, it's about, a term is about 5-6 months. I don't know, I want to stay away from doing any sort of interview where we're interviewing and asking questions. General questions itself, of why do you, maybe what was suggested, why do you want to be a commissioner? Or, what experience do you have? Have you had board experience? Are you familiar with municipal law? I mean, all of those things can be segued for all of us to decide. I just don't want to get where we step into uncharted areas of asking, to break sunshine, and that is really something. So, I do think we should have some candidate presentations and without questions, unless it's a clarifying of one of the statements that they make. If we don't understand where they're going with it, I would consider that. Additionally, it says here, the citizens of Tarpon have the ultimate decision at the polls in August, and that, I believe, is the right thing. I think this board can give some sort of specifics of what we want to get from the people. I would like to see somebody who's either a prior commissioner or has board experience, you know? That's what I would look for. But I don't, yeah, I mean, of course, I agree with, this is a given. I don't want to have anything demoralizing or any negative stuff. We should just listen, let them do a presentation, and see where we go with that. If we as a board can feel comfortable with selecting someone, I mean, that's just, I think that's the way it would be. Because like I said, the residents will be the eventual decision-making. We're just gonna be the, for the time being. I think this was done well. I don't know, I'm happy to listen to what my other commissioners would like to hear and see. I just want to keep this about as clean as possible, and that's pretty much it. I think it was done well. I just, like I said, I'll say it again, I want to keep it clean. That's it.
Commissioner Kulianis.
I have some experience with this process. David Archie had run for school board, and he had to step down. And I was approached by the mayor at that time to recommend my name to take that seat. The way the process worked then was I had to fill out a board appointment form, as any board appointment would be. I submitted a resume, and I actually got letters of recommendation. Now, that's what they had requested of me. I was, all my interviews were private, so each commissioner spoke to me privately, asked me whatever questions they wanted, and that was the extent of my interview process. Then there was to be a presentation. I was allowed to make a presentation or some kind of a statement at the meeting. No questions were going to be asked. However, again, clarifying questions maybe, but no questions. Public comments, but again, no direct questions. It turned out David didn't win the school board seat, and then requested his seat back, and they gave it to him, and that was the end of that. That was the end of my political career at that time. So, but that's how that process worked, and I thought it was very clean. I thought it was effective. I was able to talk to all the commissioners individually. I wasn't in a public forum, but again, there was no sunshine broken. I never repeated anything told to me. I was never, a conduit between any of the commissioners, and they were all above board and very professional at that time. The one thing that they all seemed to ask me, and it was, do you plan to run for the seat? They wanted to appoint someone who was willing to run for the seat. Because then because it was very similar to this. It was what I think David lost in the primary. So it was very similar to this situation. So if we're going to have somebody for a few months, for continuity's sake, it'd be helpful if they wanted to stay on and would run for the seat. It's possible, given with the new Form 6 and getting people to step up to the plate, this person may run unopposed. And with that, then that leads to my question, what would be the qualifying date for an August election?
I still have to work that out. However, I know our ballot language is due, I believe, at the beginning or middle of June.
Okay, so the person would take over end of February, so you had March, April, May, June. I mean, it's only gonna be like 3 months before the qualifying would happen. And then if that person wanted to hold the seat and there were multiple people, they gotta then now ramp up to some kind of a campaign to get all that. And it's a lot to ask of somebody. So anyways, that was a question that was asked to me.
I
And
just
thought-
wanted to clarify, excuse me, our normal qualifying is 112 days for the last day and 112 days to begin prior to the election and 104 days to end.
So again, it's going to leave a very small time for them to serve before they either have to qualify and then ramp up for some kind of an election for themselves. Anyways, those were just observations, and that's what happened with me. But I thought it was a good process.
Okay. Commissioner Kulyas.
Yes, I don't think the one-on-one interviews is a process we should take. We gotta avoid sunshine situations at all costs, and frankly, I'm not interested in just appointing some veteran who's been on the board before, and then in 7 months, no one's gonna run against them, and they're gonna walk in for another year and a half. I want someone who's gonna be eager to run, and potentially someone run against them. What we've seen, people get run unopposed, and then, stances flip. And so at times, there's some specific questions I want out there. Vice Mayor left us with a plan in succession. We got to see if that individual's on board to make it happen. I don't want to bring someone on board that's going to give us issues on Commissioner Eisner's, mayor's, and Vice Mayor. Our final and last objective that we've talked about, and we've made it clear. And I want that on the record, because I'm not gonna bring someone in who's gonna start wishy-washing and giving us issues. And that's the way I wanna go about it. I like to have a public meeting up here. Everybody who wants to apply, they can apply with the city. Tomorrow's the first day, if we put a statement out, accepting all applications for appointment, and we'll go from there. But I plan to ask questions regarding the direction of the city that the majority of us on this board have agreed to. And my concerns is bringing someone on that wants to flip it now, because now it's time to get moving. And so those are my biggest concerns. Thank you.
You want to say some more?
Well, I did want to respond to both comments, so
Okay,
unless you
let me-
want to say your
yes,
comment,
I'm going to say something.
then I
and-
may
and,
comment on yours as well.
Commissioner Kulyas, would it be, I'm going to jump in if that can't do that automatically. What about a standard set of questions that we give the candidate and have them respond in writing and then present them to not to present them to the commission, but resubmit them to the clerk's office for us to look at what like the questions you had in mind, rather than asking them in a public interview process or one-on-one.
Would we work together to create those questions, or just?
Whatever, I think the commission can come up with some questions that are somewhat standard. My concern about the interviews, of course, is winding up asking different applicants different questions. And,
Yes, sir.
And that's the only problem I have. And I think a written response and, whatever they want to say will give you a good idea of how they feel about something too. And obviously they may get some help from somebody, but, we as commissioners always get help from people telling us how to vote and stuff like that too. So I don't have an issue. The only thing I'm looking for is to minimize any additional requirements on applicants beyond what the charter says. And I want to accept Mrs. Kardash's recommendation on one-on-one, because that has to do with some issues that are going on further south that we don't want to wind up in the same situation with here. And then the other part of it is the interviews publicly. I'm a little concerned about asking applicants, having the ability to ask applicants different questions. Some of them may be construed, although we may not think they are personal, they may construe them as personal. I think there's a whole lot of issues that we could get ourselves into. So I don't have an issue with presenting them with some standard 3 questions or four questions and ask them to respond in writing. Perhaps a form very similar to what we do for our board appointees as well. Maybe if they've got any recommendations in the community, a reference in the community that they may want to offer, that sort of thing. You can always talk to their references too. But I think I think it's enough to ask people to apply for these for this particular position because of the Form 6 and everything else that goes along with that. That's all.
So I'm in agreement to almost all of what you said. I don't think we should have the one-on-one interview. That really, it's a little too invasive for me. I don't know if we could or should ask to whether the person's going to rerun or not.
I agree with that too.
That's these kind of things. You could sit there and say, yeah, I'm going to rerun, and then I resign. So what's the sense? It's like, you have to ask questions that will really make you evaluate. You want the bottom line is we all want a good person, someone who's a good decision maker, someone who has a bit of a track record. That's how we appoint people to the committees, to the Board of Adjustment, to all of these committees. We get a resume and we don't really interview them. We just go by the resume and how long they've been, listening to meetings. Speaking about people, if a person's never shown up at any Board of Commission meeting and you have somebody else who's been to a number of Board of Commission meetings and is well aware of, of course, I would be obviously leaning to someone who's been more attentive and more available to know what goes on. I know in the past, and I won't mention names, but we've had people that have run for office and never attended a Board of Commission meeting. And to me, it was a little shocking, but that's the way it is. So I think we should have some standardized questions, possibly that we could all agree on. It's not going to be in depth, just to get an idea. And it's a 5-month deal. Not any one of us can set rules. We need 3 votes for everything. So even if you get somebody in here, on some boards, and we all know this, there are people who are that one person who votes one way while 4 others vote the other. They don't win. So, even if you get somebody here that, you don't always agree with, okay, they're not going to run this board. What runs the board is 3 votes. So I'd like to see, I agree. I would think we should have some formulated questions that are general questions so that the public gets to hear and get a feel of what it is, and we get a feel of what it is. And they can't be anything to do with how would you vote in anything, because that we got to stay away from. So that's my take on it. I agree with a lot of what you had said, just those comments. I don't want to do one-on-one interviews, even though I'd get more information out of it. But I don't want to be accused of my interview versus your interview, because you could always have that person come back and sit there and go, well, I liked the interview from you, Mayor, but Eisner asked me questions I felt ill at ease, or Commissioner Cooley. You don't want to get into that. You want to have everything open and transparent. So
let me just ask for clarification before I go to Commissioner Kulianis. Ms. Kardash, it may not be a requirement, but an applicant may call a commissioner seeking their support for the appointment. How does that going to work? I mean, that, for example, on the City Charter Revision Commission, that process is almost conducive to people needing to call commissioners and ask them for their support.
Well, you certainly can't preclude it. What we don't want to do is set something where you're gonna request that all the applicants do these one-on-one interviews. That's what
Right.
we're not gonna do. I mean, you can't keep
But if-
somebody who's applying from calling a commissioner, in that regard, but,
Would there be any kind of an ex parte? I mean, only if we decide.
it's not
that-
ex parte because it's not quasi judicial, and as long as that individual is not acting as a conduit or telling Commissioner A what Commissioner B said, that's not going to be a sunshine violation. Where you set it up as a standard process for the city, that's where you might run a little bit more afoul of that transparency aspect.
Okay. Maybe that would help.
Yeah,
Commissioner
no, I'm good.
Kulianis.
Yeah. Again, I was discussing the process that I went through and how that went. I like the idea of the standardized questions. I think that's a great idea. I know that when I was being questioned by the different commissioners, they were all different random questions, and I would have probably appreciated a standardized list of questions. I think you answered my question, my next question, which was about sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
There is no sunshine regulations between us and some prospective person that might want to run.
It's only when they become.
They're not
right.
a commissioner-elect or
No.
anything of that nature.
For example, Commissioner Kulianis, Vice Mayor Lunt said he's going to support me on this. That's probably, I'm not saying, you should, I was looking at Ms. Kardash, that would probably be a
Yeah,
problem.
as long as you're not using that candidate as a conduit. Again, I'm using this candidate to tell Commissioner Eisner something. That would be a violation, but not
Correct.
my communication with this other person. That gets a little clunky because I'm sure that all of us have had someone approach us, or we have approached people about their interest in maybe wanting to run. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if we know somebody in the community that we think is a sound person that might be a good candidate, why can't we approach them and say, hey, why don't you put your name in? I think you'd be excellent to be on the board. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
I had somebody call me today. Somebody called me and asked me, hey, how's this going to work? I might be interested in that, in the position. And I told them, hey, I said, watch tonight's meeting because we're going to talk about it. I said, I didn't know what the process was. I kind of suspected it would go along this line that we're going, and they would put their name in. There'd be a certain amount of time for us to evaluate the different people and then to make a decision. And we got to make it quick because we got that 60-day rule, and otherwise then it's out of our hands. So, so I think there's going to be conversation. You can't avoid that. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with, us identifying a candidate and saying, why don't you put your name in? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And whether they run or not, that was a question asked of me. It seemed like a common question. Oh, are you going to run? That was a common question asked of me. It may be a question that I might have an interest in. It doesn't mean that they have to or don't, but that might be something that might sway my decision, is if they're going to stay on, because again, we would want to have some continuity with this person, because here they are a couple months and then, maybe they're great, and it's like, hey, I wish you'd stay on. And
You run all the time.
there you go. I'm always running.
You're a runner, right?
Yeah. I'm running in very different ways. So anyways, that was my comments.
Commissioner Kulianis, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I just wanted to
Kulianis.
ask, is there going to be a public notice, maybe by the city clerk's office, like via newspaper, social media, saying, hey, this position's open, please apply within the city, the following is needed?
So that would be one thing that I would be asking you to do tonight. I would be looking for a motion to solicit applicants for your vacancy.
Okay.
Right, so that will be one motion that I'll be requesting at the end of this evening. And then when that happens, assuming that you approve it, right, the packet will be posted on the city's website, right?
That's
Madam?
correct, or available in my office unless, we're ready tomorrow, unless we have a lot of changes or questions that we have to provide in it, and then we would probably need another day.
Let me add, because there's some practicality issues here. for the questions, I would assume either, unless this commission delegates the choice of questions to somebody, one of the charter officials, then the only opportunity, our next meeting is February 6th, right? Okay, so City Manager LaCourse, our very, very next public meeting is the workshop on Monday, is that correct?
Yes, that's work
So
session.
we could have a brief special session to approve any questions that the commission may come up with at that time?
I don't see
So
one.
you can't at a workshop.
No, not every
Oh,
workshop,
oh,
it would be a
okay. Oh, you
separate
have a
special,
session. Okay, yes.
special session where we would, whatever our time of our works, let's say it's at 6:30, we would make the special session from 6 to 6:30.
The meeting's at 9, so anticipating getting over at 12:30.
So
So
then
we
we-
make it after the work
Yes.
session, the timing we'd put on the
Okay,
special
that's right,
session would
so
be
the
the
morning.
completion of the, at the completion of the work session.
And that would, and then the posting could happen with everything that the city clerk's got in hand right now. And then the additional information with regard to the questions would be available the very next morning, which would be Tuesday. What would the date be on that?
23rd, I think?
The 23rd.
23rd.
And that would give them time to,
So the packet, just so I'm clear, so the packet we have would be available tomorrow, and then we would, once the questions were approved, then we would go back and forward that to those applicants.
That's good.
Good
Right.
idea.
does that sound acceptable to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Kardash, do you want to walk us through what we need to, the motion needs to be?
Right.
We've done our public comments, so go ahead.
So here would be the question. So you would have your list of standard questions, then would you want them to provide those answers in writing? Or would you want them to make presentations at the February 20th meeting where the appointment would occur? Or do you want to schedule a workshop to do that? That would be the next question for me.
My feeling is if we ask them in writing, I mean, if we ask them to put it in writing, then they could submit it to us ahead of time. And then if they want to just get up and say something about themselves on the 6th, I think that they can.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
And then, but we'll have the questions, and they are public documents, right? So
Yes,
anybody
they
can
would
get
be
those.
all public,
Okay.
public record. The other question too then is when was going to be your cutoff date for submitting the packets, the applicant packets?
I think 3 on the 6th, would that be?
Well, if you want them to come to the 6th meeting to present
okay,
those,
so
I
you
would
want it the
say the day before, and our normal election, we do 5 PM, so that's up to the board.
On the 5th?
Yes, if we're gonna have them come on the 6th, I think they would need time to know that, have the cutoff so we could have all those names for you.
What time would you like, Ms. Jacobs? The 5th at 5 PM or 3 PM?
Either or works for me.
Okay, so the cutoff would be the 5th, the day before our next meeting, and that way you would have all the information in hand, and then you would have a day or so to get things.
3
ready
would
for
probably
us.
give you a little extra time. if you
3,
had it
so I
by
can
3.
provide it to the board.
Yeah, so 3 probably, so she could provide to
3
the
o'clock
board
is fine.
instead of after
3
hours.
o'clock is
probably.
fine, yeah. So the 5th at 3 PM, Ms. Kardash.
Okay.
Is that acceptable to the commission right now? Okay.
And then the last item is just the reminder that, as it did say in the memo regarding the qualifications, that this does not constitute a qualification for office, and you can still consider any nomination that is made for somebody who otherwise qualifies. That means that if you're making the appointment on the 20th, that they will have had to have been a resident of the city of Tarpon since February 20th, 2023 at a minimum, and that they are a registered voter within the city.
And that's the city clerk's job to,
Correct.
okay, and the affidavit and whatever else you do, okay.
Mhm.
I think Ms. Jacobs, if y'all haven't seen the packet she's got, it's, and Ms. Kardash worked on that as well. It's a pretty exceptional packet that goes through the Form 6 and a number of other things that I think is more than what we got, actually, which I think is very helpful. So do y'all remember, do you want me to state the motion? Sure. Because I want to put the dates in here. We move that the process for appointing an applicant to fill the vacant Vice Mayor Lunt's seat. Ms. Jacobs, do you have a seat number on that?
That's seat number 2.
Number 2. Make a motion to approve the process for filling the vacant seat number 2 would be as follows, that the nomination start would be at the close of business this evening. That the clerk, city clerk will be posting the information packet online tomorrow. That the closing of the applications will be February 5th at 3 p.m. That the regular session of February 6th will be an opportunity for the applicants to say something about themselves, and that the appointment will occur February 20th. And then, is it the 23rd, the next workshop?
The 22nd.
22nd is our workshop. So we will have a special session at noon?
Approximately at the conclusion of the work session, probably between 12 and 12:30.
So we'd have to be a specific date for this special session, so let's do
I'm not here.
12.
22nd of February?
No,
Oh,
it's January.
This is the meeting Monday.
Yes.
Sorry.
We're tacking this on to the meeting Monday.
I have, yes.
So we have to have a specific time, so could we
I think did you say it would be after the completion of the work session?
Yes, you,
You don't
so
have to give a specific
you
time.
don't, you can
Okay.
do it in that
Okay,
manner.
the special session for approving standard questions that would go to the applicants would occur on January 22nd at the completion, we'll commence the special session at the completion of the workshop currently scheduled for January 2nd. Does that cover everything?
And the workshop begins at 9 a.m.
Yes, and the workshop begins at 9 a.m.
The last thing is for the presentations on February 6th, are you giving the candidates
An opportunity to say something.
yes, but for how long? Is it going to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Or your standard for 3 or 4 minutes?
5 minutes? 10 minutes?
I think 10
Up to 10 minutes, up to 10 minutes?
Up
10 minutes
to.
is good.
Up to 10
Okay.
minutes. Okay, up to 10 minutes, Ms. Kardash.
Okay.
So may I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any other commission comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Okay, that completes the agenda. Let's go to board and staff comments. Chief Young. Ms. Kardash.
Nothing further this evening.
Okay, city manager, of course.
The only thing I wanted to follow up on was from the MLK parade on Saturday. Again, we talked about the Epiphany and how well it went as we start off our new year 2024. I will say we got a lot of comments after the parade at the event at Dorset Park, and the ones that were telling were a couple that talked about how much the city is involved in the MLK process and the different things between the parades and the breakfast, and from a longtime person who traveled around, they said that they didn't really appreciate that until they saw other cities and saw the difference of other cities on ours. And we were really praised for the city involvement. All of us and a lot of staff was there, working with the committee from the start. So we got a lot of accolades following up what we did for Epiphany. I think from this board all the way down, everybody should be proud of that the community recognizes the city's involvement, the city's participation in this event, and that it is seen as more than other cities do. So again, another good point starting the year for our 2024.
Okay, thank you. It was a terrific event. Ms. Jacobs,
I have no comment, thank you.
nothing?
I have no comment.
Okay. Just going to make one note here because I need to ask a question. Commissioner Cuias.
Yes, I just was happy to see the high school come in attendance in all different departments, and I guess it's now my time to talk, and I've officially filed and announced my candidacy for mayor in the March 2025 election. I'm a man who's going to do exactly what I say I'm going to do. We created a movement back in 2020 that has never been seen before. Neither was the political campaign that we ran. And I promise we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to bring the energy, the enthusiasm that the city hasn't seen before, we'll see again. And it's for the future of Tarpon Springs. We don't want to go back. We had a good foundation. We're moving forward. And the last thing we need to do is get set back by some old ways of thinking. And so it's time for us as a city to collectively move forward. And some of the biggest accomplishments were that only a few on this board can talk about were the land use changes. About population density, those changes have already happened. So moving forward on those would be interesting to hear talking about. Preserving small town charm, you remember where you heard it first on the campaign trail. And so from there, I promise we're in it for the residents. We're not in it just to sit there and call ourselves the mayor of Tarpon Springs, but we're gonna look out, care, and show love and empathy for this town as the mayor of Tarpon Springs. And I look forward to any and all challenges, being the first to file, and look forward to the opportunity. So I wanna thank all the residents. I love you, Tarponites, and God bless Tarpon Springs. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Eisner, do you have anything?
I just want to thank the residents. I mean, we were all at the MLK breakfast. It was an excellent sign of unity. I enjoyed all the people. I probably know almost half the people there. It was really nice getting together. It was nice having the food and the camaraderie, and the parade was an excellent parade. A lot of towns do not do that. I'd like to have seen, more participation, but, I know it was a little bit of a cold day, so I forgive anybody that didn't want to come out. It was a little chilly, but I hope next year that we have more and more people coming out to this parade. We had, I think it was the largest amount of people in the parade, not so much the people that were viewing it, but it just didn't seem to end, So it was very nice, and I enjoyed my day. So just thank you.
The old days, the marches were marches. They weren't expecting people to observe them. The marches were to demonstrate solidarity. So everybody would walk together, which is pretty much what was happening. That was a good one.
Yeah,
So,
it was really nice. And, I didn't mind, being behind you guys because,
with a truck.
Well, listen, it's the sign of the times. We have crazy people out there, and I'm glad that my Silverado was sitting behind you guys.
Yeah.
It was there. A little bit of it was my thought to be somewhat protective, so that's why I did what I did. So, thank you.
Commissioner Kulianis.
Yeah, with sadness, my wife Kay's mother is in hospice. She has a few days, but her name was Joe Cortezas. I think anyone who's been around Tarpon probably remembers her. She was homecoming queen. She was one of Mr. Ellis's first employees at Ellis Bank. And her parents were special as well. And Everett and Zelma White were her parents. You remember White's jewelry?
Mm-hmm.
I see so many people who will come up and tell my wife that they got their engagement ring from Weiss. You remember it? Yeah. And another thing is he had the first airport in Tarpon Springs. I don't know if people know that we used to have an airport out by Howard Park, and he had the first airport, and he used to fly pretty regularly down to Cuba, and he also played the saxophone and played in all the big bands when they would travel, you know, Benny Goodman and all that. So, anyways, that's her father, and so I just want to tell my wife I love her, and that's all I can say.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
She's your neighbor. I said she's your neighbor.
I know, she's my neighbor, and also remembered her from a long time ago. A very nice lady. Did you have anything else, Commissioner? No. Okay. First, let me congratulate Commissioner Kulyas and Commissioner Kulianis on filing their papers and announcing their candidacy. And you know, y'all received a memorandum from me last week, and so, as I said, you have to convince the voters who's the best person. But I can say that if the election was based on just having a heart for Tarpon Springs, the choice is going to be real hard. And so from that perspective, I really, really feel good. There's no question that both of y'all's heart is in Tarpon Springs, and I'm comfortable with y'all running for mayor. I'm very grateful for that as well. So notwithstanding who else is going to run. Having said that, knowing that you two are running for mayor, I asked Ms. Kardash if could we do something about the gavel, since we've got two more aggressive type people running for office. So she said maybe we could try a new size gavel for you two guys, and this is just to try it out for a while, and if it works, we'll just, instead of this, you'll get this. So
you can throw that one.
yeah, you throw it, right. The other thing I wanted to say was, and I forgot to do this, I'm going to say this now, the Greek Independence Day Parade Committee is under a completely new organization, new people. I heard a lot of conversation, you know, we were talking about the MLK March, and same thing, there was a lot of chatter going on about the organization and how they're going to move forward and stuff. None of it was really substantive as far as who's doing what, and maybe worth having someone, or maybe you've already taken care of that.
Yes, they're already, Tareen Mathis is heading up to set up that meeting and involve the chief and myself and get that meeting set up. So that's already.
I want to make sure that that's a huge event, and people don't understand the amount of logistics and the undertaking of that. So anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Other than that, it was a terrific Martin Luther King Jr. Day observance, and I know that I really, based on what I said, we really should be proud of ourselves of trying to reestablish, or not reestablish, but to confirm and make sure that our three independent neighborhoods continue progressing in the future, at least those that we've got the traditional historic district, we've got the Greektown, Tarpon Springs Greektown Historic District, and we've also got the Union Academy neighborhood that we're trying to preserve how people wish to live there. So I'm very proud of all of that, and I know, again, our city staff is working overtime, as well as a lot of other people, the police department, the Epiphany, I mentioned to you, right, about the Epiphany, and our Secret Service was all over town, and that's our Tarpon Springs Secret Service. Plain clothes, I mean, they were in plain clothes. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody. I think it was an outstanding meeting tonight. I'm a little surprised we're finishing within 10 minutes or so of what our planned time was. I would have thought that this would have gone much later. So thank you very much. Meeting adjourned at 10:09. Sign these. I got some things y'all need to sign.
Make sure you sign